Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a special meeting today. We are here at the town of Basalt, our town council meeting for January 24th, and we are pleased to meet this afternoon with our Eagle County Commissioners. So Matt Shear, Jeannie McQueenie, and Kathy Chandler-Henry are here with us this afternoon. We got a robust agenda, things to talk about, so welcome you guys, and thank you very much for coming over. So I'm just doing the introductions and welcome, but I do have a few housekeeping things. For anybody looking in on our local TV, just be aware that when we get to town council meetings, give you advance warning. If you want to call in virtually and address council on any topic not on the agenda, just click on the January 24 meeting packet, open it, and there are instructions for meeting access, and our town clerk will admit you to the meeting. So that's for later on for anybody who wants to talk to council later. So, I guess I'll start, and then maybe we'll just go around the horn with intros. I just want to start with a very friendly note here. We banter back and forth, but I think it's important for everyone to understand that we have an incredibly good and productive functional relationship with Eagle County. And, our community wouldn't function as well as it does without the help and support that you guys provide. I can rattle through a lot, but, certainly all the help with the open space initiatives that have paid off. We partnered on an incredibly important acquisition at the Salt and Stall Ranch with Eagle County Open Space and Pitco and the town of Basalt, and it was a wonderful example of what governments can do. The old saying, we're from government, we're here to help. I think in that instance, it really did help. So, I certainly am glad to see you. And I just want to make a few introductory remarks. We appreciate the work session. We are a town that takes great pride in comprehensive planning. We are a town that has a clear vision for our future. It's a highly managed growth and development inside a rigorously defended urban growth boundary. So our dream of the future is to have a settlement that is surrounded by deed restriction open space, and we've made some incredible strides in that direction. Everything from Catherine's Store on the west side of our town, south and west side of the town, is now all deed restricted. So when you travel from Carbondale to Pitkin County, everything you see is deed restricted in one form or another. So you roll from Catherine's Store, you get into Rock Bottom Ranch, and then Salt and Stall, then Glacier, and then Billy Grange, and then Cerise, and all these lands have been set. So, then we have Pitkin County, then we have BLM on the other side. So our only sort of growth, unsolved part of the equation is Highway 82 in Eagle County. So you get pushback. We've had a lot of, I'm not going to go into individual projects, that's not appropriate, but just so you know, that's our vision. And so single family outlying kind of sprawling development is really, I know, something you guys have not been in favor of, and it's one we're really not supportive of on this side of the valley too. So it's if you get a little side friction from time to time, that's what it's about. So we are really all about trying to conserve land and be focused about where development should occur. And as you know, we have a very successful initiative. We got voted by the voters for Basalt 2030, which provided for affordable housing, green initiatives, and our downtown improvements. So we managed to get $20 million organized for 2% money, which we were informed that with arbitrage right now is basically free. So, yay! What's not to like? So, I think Gail Schwartz just walked in too, and so Gail's been extremely active in the community with Habitat. We are very supportive. We have our little treasure chest worked up for affordable housing. We're really focusing on infill development to make best use of that money. So we have you know, continued cooperation on open space, the Basalt 2030 projects. We thank Jeannie's been chairing our RAFTA committee, and we have Basalt Connects. We've made some really nice strides in terms of connecting up our disparate centers in Basalt, Southside, Willits, and Old Town, and that's successful, and we're working hard towards making that a reality year-round. So, we have recently adopted a new comprehensive plan. It's pretty explicit about where we want to see the community go, and so we'll be communicating with you from time to time about that. But we have a good agenda, and thanks. So with that, I think the introductions are made. Everyone knows Jeannie and Matt and Kathy Chandler Henry. Good skiers all, we had so thank you guys for the ski day we did last week. It was really a great day. We had the whole community out, and that was a great deal. So thanks for that. So Kathy, you want to make some comments for the county side?
Sure, just a quick comment that we really value this partnership, and we value your hospitality. Thank you for having us tonight. One of our bywords over the last many years has been collaboration, and we really have worked hard to establish good relationships if they weren't there, and to nurture those that have been good. And we appreciate the work that we've been able to do with you all on things like housing, transit. Some of these are on our agenda tonight: climate initiatives, childcare. Brian and I work a lot on water issues with Route I Water and Power Authority, all of these things that are sort of independent of governmental boundaries. So we appreciate that. And our new word for this year, our new theme word, is acceleration. So we are looking to really move the ball on the things that we've been working on. We've been all sort of taking a pause during COVID, and now we've got our feet under us. We've got some good direction. There's some funding available, and we really are hoping to push forward on the things that are important for all of us. I think.
Good. Thank you. Well, we have an agenda, so I think we've covered the welcomes. So maybe the first piece of this, and I don't know if the staff want to lead this discussion, the first piece is to talk about the tree farm building, Crown Mountain. Tree farm is kind of a confusing term now, because we have a tree farm. We have a couple of tree farms,
Right.
and we're concerned that these farms are not producing trees; they're producing condominiums. And that's a bit of a concern. So if trees, I guess we wouldn't be as focused. But do you guys want to kind of tee this up a little bit?
Sure, and I think just for the sake of council, I kind of talked to the commissioners a bit already on sort of the format tonight. This really is meant to be an informal discussion where you all have an opportunity to talk about topics that are relevant to both of our agencies, and to brainstorm and give staff feedback and maybe see where we go from here. So I think the format, staff can sort of kick off a discussion with an update on where we are with some of these items here, and then you guys can kind of take it and talk as much or as little as you'd like about each topic. So with that, on this first one with the tree farm at Crown Mountain, Jeff was going to start with that, and then we can chime in as to where we are in the process, and then we'll chat a little bit more about that. So,
yeah. Good evening, council members. I'll refer to this as the good tree farm. It's the one over by Crown Mountain. I won't talk about the other one unless you ask me to, but this is it's kind of a long-standing agreement that Eagle County has with the Forest Service. It's a very complex agreement that I think both my colleague John Peacock in Picken County and our respected attorney's offices always scratch our head, and we have no idea how it ended up the way it is. But as it turns out, the Forest Service property that the old tree farm building to the, from there to I believe it's Valley Road, we ended up having both of us have the first right of refusal to purchase the property. And I won't go into why or how, because I'll probably botch that, but the Forest Service, they're not just in the Roaring Fork Valley, but in several places on the Eagle side, they're trying to divest themselves of what they consider administration pieces of property so they can kind of consolidate their operations. They're like all of us in the government world looking for housing for their employees. And so Scott Fitzwilliams reached out to both John and I and asked if we wanted to exercise our rights. As you know, we both did. And then that starts a very long process with the federal government to purchase the property. I'll fast forward to where we are today. It was, in the spirit of cooperation, I think it was nice because Basalt, Eagle County, and Pickens County, we were aligned on an objection letter to the Forest Service as they went through the NEPA. And we objected on three principles. One, we did not want the Forest Service to hold back parcels of property. There was some rumors that they might do that so they could, again, do their own housing. We think, I've had some good conversations, and I'm sure you might get into them with under item 3 on the agenda, but I've had good conversations with Ryan about some suitable places for your infill that might be workable for Forest Service employees, as well as some things closer to Soper's Village. But we didn't want them to bifurcate the property. We also didn't want them to separate the water rights away from the property. That's always somewhat have been of a non-starter for us as well. And then I'm going to rely on you for the third one.
The third one was the density question.
Yeah,
In the
right.
NEPA, they had somewhere of a range between 90 and 300 units, which we weren't really sure where they came up with that. And so all three of us were aligned on that objection, that it was just, denser than what was contemplated in either the master plan for Eagle County and or the town of Basalt.
And two reasons for that. One, it wouldn't match, it certainly wouldn't fit into your or our master plan, or the Crown Mountain master plan that they're working on, as well as our listing session that we did when we looked at what kind of additional recreation opportunities exist at Crown and the property that Eagle County owns. But also, that really changes the appraisal process as well if they walk into this with a higher density model. So those are the three things. We've received a written letter back from Scott. It's a little hard to decipher where it's going, but one of the things that we did suggest is put out an MOU. In addition to purchasing this property jointly with Pickens County, Eagle County has a very, very complex agreement with the Forest Service for even operating our Elgibel building that's the county's, as well as all of Crown Mountain. And so we would like to go to the Forest Service for a complete amendment to clean up some of the issues there. There's water issues. The water that supplies their Forest Service housing is in a dilapidated tank encased in concrete that sits underneath the tree farm building. And so we're trying to figure out what to do with that. The reason I mentioned the tree farm building, we budgeted this year to actually bulldoze it and just be done with it. We're not going to use it. We don't have any future plans for it. It's not in great shape. It's probably not safe to be in and around. Crown Mountain has come back and said, no, wait a minute, we would like it. We would pay the money to look at refurbishing it. And so we're trying to investigate, okay, if we do that, how would we deal with our water requirements for the Forest Service? And so there's a lot of moving parts. As slow as towns and counties can be government-wise, the Forest Service can be even a little bit slower, but we do appreciate that Scott continues to work on it, and it's nice to have both Ryan and John at the table as we kind of jointly try to figure out what the future of that area looks like. We did get some clarifications that some of the local folks objected to that I think we were able to address. There's no plans for development on what I would consider the lower bench, which is off the tree farm, all that area down there. We're not too interested in that. Forest Service was in agreement with that. So that's kind of where it is. I think the Crown would probably look at something as either passive or active additional recreation areas, and then that's part of their master plan process that they're going through as well. And I think there's some more opportunities to weigh in on that. So happy to take any questions. It is a complex, very slow-moving train, but we're still out there, and I would imagine we probably will see the Forest Service commence on an appraisal here in Q1 or Q2.
James, any chance you could bring up a map for us?
Sure.
And the screen is not on, by the way.
Oh, no.
I'm now so needy today.
Probably have to hire tall town managers.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no way I could reach that.
we had a height limitation when I was,
Commissioners would be no help.
I'll use Eagle County GIS, probably the best
Fancy.
tool we have. You're wanting to look at Crown Mountain?
Well, I just wanted, when you say lower bench, I was just wanted to understand what that division is.
yeah, we all did a tour out there and hiked the lower bench and all that, but that's been years ago now. Thought it was last summer, it was like 2020.
Have to share it on the Zoom. So. The lower bench is down in this area. Jeff, you want to use the pointer?
Basically, it follows this right here. So the property that we be purchasing all of this, but really the only thing we're talking about is right here. This is the tree farm building itself. Here's the Forest Service houses that are currently exist. I think there's a couple of fifth wheelers on there as well. But there's a ditch line that runs like through here that delineates the upper and the lower parcel. The whole lower parcel is not anything that would be subject to any kind of development or anything.
So everything east is Crown Mountain Park.
Correct.
And they have a big open space parcel, where they had the drive-in movie and that kind of big sage meadow out there. Do we know what their thoughts are about that land?
Isn't that actually part of the Forest Service property?
Yeah, in here, yes.
So they don't own it, they were just
Oh, I see, okay.
occupying it.
Got it,
temporarily.
okay.
Yeah, their
that
lease
helps.
probably ends along these lines right here. So I think what they're looking at in their master plan is to come back to Eagle County and look at some amendments to grow some additional recreation opportunities.
What's Pitkin County's role? I mean, what's the partnership looking like?
I think it's a good question. I think they just wanted to be part of discussions. Much like you mentioned, I think they've always got concerns about where growth occurs, and
Right.
I think those kinds of things. And so I think they have an interest in protection of potential Forest Service housing as well. Pitkin is, all of us are involved in wildfire collaboratives that we know we've got to house Forest Service folks for firefighting, that kind of thing. So, I think they just wanted a seat at the table, and they exercised their right to be a property acquisition partner with Eagle County.
At
So-
one point, they had talked about senior housing.
Correct.
And I
Right.
don't know if they're still looking at that or not.
And part of that was seeded through what the town's master plan contemplates for that area is that because as you move to the west on that property, you get further and further away from services, transit, lighting, sidewalks, any of that kind of infrastructure that would be characteristic of a more urban environment. And so the town and our master plan contemplated some additional recreation uses potentially as well, that there could be a conversation about senior housing. So I think that's sort of been, in the listening sessions, we provided that, and then, in discussions with John and Jeff, so.
So the rough sort of outline of the deal is, so the Forest Service we get an appraised valuation, and then they get exchange in kind in the form of actually delivered habitable units that equate in some par value for the appraisal. And then if there's development above and beyond that for the community's account, then that's all well and good, as long as there's a land use support for it.
Yes and maybe.
I see.
they are capable of just getting an appraisal, throwing it out there, and we can exercise that or not with really no
I see.
strings attached. Now, what they're concerned about is for them to do that, they're concerned about where do these folks go and where do we house them. And so we've sort of put that into the equation somehow, somewhere, whether it's a combination of working with some of your folks, Habitat, wherever we can find infill developments and maybe some other places that Eagle County may have. And so I think we want to try to find a place to put their existing housing. They don't want to lose inventory. And they're looking for 12 to 14 units to house their White
That's
River
it,
folks
huh?
on this side of the valley.
Wow.
And that's the bifurcation that they proposed that you guys
Yeah.
objected to, is that circle right there, right?
Yeah, we don't want them to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But,
And I think part of it, because we think we could put them in a better location, and those houses they're not in the best place. They're not in the best shape, and I think we can do a better job for them somewhere else.
a cash transaction would be clean, but
Yeah.
when we were out there with Senator Bennett, we were informed that if there was cash, that money went into the national fund, and there would be no, sort of improvement for life in the White River National Forest if it was a cash deal. But if, we were delivering bricks and mortar, that would work to their benefit. Is that still the case?
That's absolutely part of the equation. And I think there's also, and Kathy may be able to speak to it too, there's opportunities to go back and amend the Farm Bill, and we're trying to get that taken out of the Farm Bill, that if there's money that's generated in the White River, we want it to stay in the White River. Don't send that back
got
to
it.
the black hole of the Forest Service.
Okay, well, there's some spade work to be done here to
Yeah.
get this deal
Right.
going. Yeah. Okay, guys, questions, discussion, any kind of vision issues here? I mean, clear this is going to be, yeah.
Like, once this gets developed, what's the main, how are you guys progressing?
We're doing well.
Not even that one, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we're getting there. I might need some help from the chair of the RAFTA board, if anybody knows her.
Right.
Because we're running into just some misunderstandings, I think, with RAFTA and the parking. The alignment, as you all know, the original alignment was like $7 million. We've redone some things that we think we can build it for $3 million and make it much more effective, much more efficient, and actually create better parking for RAFTA. But there's been some resistance of, don't touch my stuff, and we think we can make their stuff better if they just kind of give us a chance to look at it. So we're getting close. I would love to see this go to bid late '23 is my hopes for it. And that's regardless of any other activity that may or may not happen down that road.
Yeah.
And I know that there's been some different iterations of it, but I guess I would just say, given the importance of that grocery store to our community, making sure that that's a focus of the entry point, that people, can get in and out
It's
with
gonna-
ease.
yeah.
I think that's probably an important point for us.
It's going to be better. Did I just hit you in the eye with this?
No.
Sorry. Okay.
That's good.
It's like I won't have a job tomorrow, but
I'll let you know.
just hit the commissioner in the eye with a laser
Early in
pointer.
the evening.
We're actually, when we're done with this, it's going to be an easier egress and ingress for Willets. It's going to make it very clear to people that live up Sopris, you probably don't need to be going down that drive unless you live down that drive. Now, I think it has a little bit of a feel for, I wonder if that's a shortcut into Willets somehow, and that's certainly some feedback we received from them, that, if we can make that as obscure as possible. So I think from both sides of Valley Road, I think it's going to be much more functional.
Nice.
So you said you got a response from Scott from your joint letter. Do you have a sense of what he's thinking in terms of density? Because that's going to have the biggest impact on the appraisal, which hopefully will go out in this quarter and not next quarter.
Well,
I mean, he doesn't really,
it's vague.
it's very vague.
What I saw from it was a statement that that it would analyze only the most reasonably foreseeable use of the administrative site as the administrative site as determined through the market analysis. So I think that those densities that they identified, I didn't really catch that they were going to back off of those for purposes of the appraisal, but when we were in the objection hearing, somehow they conveyed to us, and I would need more clarity on this, that those densities don't necessarily affect the value, which
Correct.
in my understanding of appraisals, that's not
But they have a
how
different.
it works, but I think they
Feds
do have a different
Yeah,
process.
they have a separate process, and they have a very short list of qualified appraisers for the federal government.
And they have, with the Farm Bill, it requires that they have to sell at appraised value. They
Yes.
can't say,
No
oh, yeah, well,
negotiations,
yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
That's the biggest unknown is the appraisal, and so
Yep.
hopefully they'll get that done quickly.
So this guy is outside our referral area, is it, or is it this site?
For the
For
the
land
town,
use, land
or-
use. for-
No, it would be within.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll have an opportunity to participate on, at least as a referral agency.
Correct.
Context for the project.
If we're
And-
participating.
Yeah, maybe, yes, exactly, you know, we may, yeah, we may be talking to ourselves, which we do a lot of, so.
Well, and I think there is an opportunity to take that lower bench and make it protected open space.
Yeah.
Since that's the intent. And Eagle County Open Space, Pitkin County has been a great partner in all of our open space over here, so
Yep.
I think that's.
Yeah,
That would be
Would
necessary,
be
yeah.
desirable.
that would be a great idea, to make it almost like a condition of the deal that,
Right.
you know, and a stipulation for the appraisal that the lower bench should not be ascribed
That's a
any
good
commercial
idea.
value, because it's, our intention is to apply a conservation easement to that lower bench.
And I think there are some endangered plants down there.
Flower, some
Penstemon,
Ah,
so
Yeah,
there's some valuable.
there's a
resources.
component of the lower bench that, you know, where they found it's not the penstemon, but it's another,
It's a orchid.
it's an, oh, yeah. The Forest Service took that off the table. They're gonna retain ownership of that.
And it's
Nice.
habitat for the cuckoo, I think that's how you pronounce it, cuckoo. They haven't had any sightings, but it's viable habitat anyways, so that'll be preserved.
Not including present company,
Right,
right?
yeah.
all right. Any more discussion, comments, questions on, I had the distinct aroma of pizza. I don't know if you want to,
Sure.
what's your time frame
Right
on that?
behind
Yeah, it's right behind you, and we thought we would kind of, again, informal, eat and chat, just because we're gonna be moving right along. It's.
Okay, what do you say we go
5:30,
for
so.
15 more minutes, and then we'll,
That's fine,
You
if
know.
you guys can handle it.
does that sound good, or everybody hungry right now? David's giving me the,
I had a late lunch. I'm good.
all right. Okay, 5:45, we'll hit the pizza. Okay, next topic is affordable housing updates and discussions. So, and I would like to acknowledge Gail. I appreciate her coming. I've talked to her on the phone. She's a real activist and, you know, providing affordable housing in our valley. So we'd like to include her in this conversation. So, everybody know Gail Schwartz and Habitat for Humanity?
Yes, we do.
Very good. So,
James, you wanna pull up the?
Sure.
yeah.
So what James is pulling up here, sort of hot off the press for us as staff, and you know the intent of this, since we've had so many discussions about affordable housing, and it really acts as a reference for the council going forward. It's a place where everything that is affordable housing in the town is consolidated into this document. So I thought I'd just go through that briefly with where we are. And so we kind of split this up into first the tables, and the color of the tables are, you know, refer to the associated maps as well. So these orange are all the rental units that exist within the town. One caveat in here, like if you look down the second one towards the bottom, Basalt River Park, you can see that there's 8 RO units. I did not include those RO units as affordable in this instance. They're just resident occupied, so they didn't have a category associated with them.
Ryan, what are the categories?
There are 3 different categories, category 1, 2, and 3, and those are associated with a correlating AMI. And our AMI is a blend of Pitkin County and Eagle County revenues. And James, does it start at 60, 80, 100?
Our category 1 equals 80% of AMI, our category 2 is 100%, and category 3 is 120%.
Thank you. So all told, we have 231 units of rental affordable housing within the town. And then on the next table, you can see that we have some for sale units within the town, and there are 42 of those, and they have, you know, different categories associated with them and some different conditions. And then we have some units that are in the pipeline, and those will total 66 units. Some of those include the Sopers Meadows Parcel 5 that was recently approved by council, which is over in the Willits area, and then Basalt Center Circle, which is just right here across the street. That's a redevelopment of the old Clark's Market. That building has been sitting vacant for a number of years. And then there's what's called Lot J in the Basalt Commercial Park, and that is down Emma Road. It's a small development that'll include 3 different affordable units in it once built. And so, you know, I think at the end of the day, this just gives a nice reference for us. Council has been talking and providing direction to town staff in recent months. We do have some money that what came through a bond issue, and we have approximately $6 million. There's about $5 million of it left. We purchased 4 single-family lots in the Stotts Mill development, which is on the south side of town in that neighborhood. And some of the strategies that we have won't sound too unfamiliar to you in Eagle County. We have been exploring some different options on deed buy-downs for developments that we know are that aren't built but are in you know, the pipeline to be built. We looked at building on our own town-owned properties that we have, so exploring those types of opportunities. Land banking, of course, is another one, putting that away for the future as a strategy, and then the possibility of purchasing already built properties, deed restricting them, and then reselling them to folks. So those are, you know, just a couple of the strategies, and we don't have anything concrete. We are working back and forth with council on that, and so more to come on that in the future. James, did you want to just talk a little bit about what we're doing on the policy side this year?
Yeah, on the policy side, we're going to go out for an RFP to try to find a consultant to update our housing needs assessment and gap study so that later in the year, potentially we could amend our code related to our mitigation requirements and our housing guidelines. So we're starting to embark on that with our Basalt Affordable Community Housing Committee. We call them BAC. And so there's more to come on that here in the future.
Yeah.
Did you want to mention anything you guys are up to? I know you had the big sale last year. You've been working with your staff quite a bit.
Yeah, and commissioners, feel free to to jump in, the Board of County Commissioners also serves as our Eagle County Housing and Development Authority. But yeah, we were able to sell Lake Creek Apartments last year that was able to, kind of seed $50 million. And that's on top of another $10 million that the commissioners put in out of our general reserves into just solving housing issues. And so what we've been trying to do throughout, and it includes the stuff that Ryan just showed is helpful. We want to do projects over here. We want to partner with you as well to figure out what's the best bang for that dollar. On our side on the river side, the Eagle River side, there's a pretty big consortium of us just all trying to get together. The town managers are very active in this. The Vail Valley Foundation has put together kind of a housing consortium of what I would consider some of the bigger employers over the valley, the Vail Hospital, the school district, some of the bigger contractors, as well as all the municipalities, special districts, CMC. And we're working on just kind of figuring out, I have pulled up just an inventory map that each town submitted to the town of Avon. They sort of took the lead on this to have an inventory of every town in the valley of where that's appropriate to put housing and where could we put housing. Again, we're also looking at the same things that Ryan mentioned, walkability, where we don't have to rely on cars, it's on bus routes, those kinds of things. And so we're working pretty diligently on that. Fast forward, if one of the commissioners wants to talk about the specific programs that we have available, I think that's, those are some exciting things that are already existing and out the door.
Yeah, we call it Housing Bold Moves, and it's county-wide, but it is the money, the $10 million we put in, and then it looks like we'll need to add some to different areas of that. But really, the goal is to try and convert housing that we have into workforce housing, because we don't necessarily have a huge shortage of houses. We just have a shortage of houses that workers can live in. So we're doing buy down of deed restrictions. We're doing, we really upped the level of down payment assistance that we do, and you can layer that if you have different sources for down payment assistance. We will go in as a cash buyer because we found that we're losing out to big buyers from out of state or from in-state who were coming in with cash and over the asking price. So if somebody has a house that they are qualified for and ready to buy, the county can go in as a cash buyer and then sell it back to the homeowner with no charge to do that. That's been popular. We've got a program to fund ADU creation, and that's been very popular. We've got some rental assistance to help pay for first and last month's rent. You still have to pay the security deposit, and then depending on your income level, you either pay that back or it's a grant. So that has helped some workers coming into the community to be able to get into housing. We've been less successful at trying to convince people to turn their short-term rental into long-term rental. We've offered a differential there to say we'll pay the difference between what you can get between short-term and long-term. That hasn't really taken off yet, but we'll keep trying to tweak that, see if we can do it. Then we have some big projects. There's a development in the town of Eagle that the county has gone in and done a pre-purchase of 43 units that will be for sale, deed restricted, and those will sell back to people when they are completed, but that kind of reserves those up front for local workforce. We're working with Habitat for Humanity in the valley over on that side for a project they're doing also in the town of Eagle in conjunction with the school district. So sort of like the Basalt Vista, different model, but and those are modular homes, which is a first for Habitat over on that side of the county as well.
Well, and Kim Bell-Williams is our housing director, and she's been participating in the collaborative that is going on in the Roaring Brook Valley, and it had a very interesting name, but I don't
West
remember.
Mountain Regional Housing Coalition.
There you go. It was like, well, that was really interesting. But the West Mountain Regional Housing Collaboration?
Coalition.
Coalition. So, and that is really we had an update from her just yesterday in terms of what they've been able to achieve and bringing everyone together. And, everyone is aware that there's some infrastructure money and some housing money. I just call it all COVID money. It has different names, but that they'll really be prepared to apply for some of that. And so it seems as if the valley here has really gotten together the right people, and again, they're all trying to get it figured out, get the right people at the table.
Are you guys participating in the Indeed program in
That's
Vail?
Town of Vail.
That's strictly Town of Vail?
Town of
Okay.
Vail. But we have partnered with them. There's a rental project in Edwards, and Town of Vail came in and bought some deed restrictions on those rental units. The county bought some, so it turned the whole project into a deed-restricted long-term rental program. So that's the kind of collaborative things that we're trying to do with the towns in the county, to say, let's partner together and get things deed-restricted, or get some sort of a way to turn housing into workforce housing.
And a number of our programs are available to any Eagle County resident in or out of incorporated areas, like
Right.
down payment assistance and things. So they can combine with, say, something like Indeed.
Cool.
Right.
Right, so like the ADU program would be available to anyone, anywhere that lives in Eagle County, regardless if
Can you
they're in a town as well.
Talk a little bit about the ADU program. What do you do other than provide zoning?
So it's
initiatives?
no, we don't do anything with zoning. That's
Okay.
totally up to the homeowner. We
Okay.
offer them the money that they need in order to renovate, to create an ADU.
Okay.
And I think it was for 3 years of no interest and then 2% interest. They have to lease their property when it's ready to somebody that meets our guidelines of affordability. And the rent has to be at an affordable level, and that's set for the whole time that they owe anything on the grant.
Yeah.
So they can change it after the number of years it takes them to pay that back, but it's no interest and then very low interest.
Wow.
But it is up to them to know if they're allowed to do an ADU.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, I think we, are, excited about that prospect. It's daunting to look at underlying zoning or, covenants and restrictions.
HOA,
CCRs,
yeah.
provide great barriers. So, we'd love to look at it and make it happen if it's possible. But
Right. The town of Gypsum
there
a
are
few
some
years
headwinds
ago had
that
done that.
we've got to be realistic about over here.
Yeah.
Which are tough. So I wanted to provide a minute for Gail to tell us about what's going on. Habitat is pretty aggressively pursuing a modular plant in Garfield County, and that could be a bit of a game changer in terms of access and affordability. So, we just saw the governor, they had an interesting little clip on the other night describing this modular program. I think our mindset is a modular is like basically double wide. Not the case. I mean, they're basically gone vertical with these guys, and with balconies and pitched roofs and lots of fenestration, and they're, it's a pretty interesting possibility. So, Gail, why don't you tell us what's going on?
Such a pleasure to see everybody, and thank you for the opportunity, because we are working diligently to try to tackle this elephant one bite at a time. And as you are aware, we have finished the 27 homes here at Basalt Vista, won the International Habitat Award for a multifamily project because of its both affordability, it's anywhere from 70 to 100% AMI, all ownership, and net zero. We're committed to the net zero model, because that's true affordability. When you have homeowners, when their utility bill, all in, is $14 a month, because the project or the home will generate more energy than it uses. It's proved out the heat pump technology at altitude and in this climate. And again, we are very bullish. We want to thank both NREL, RMI, Holy Cross for really putting that on the map. So currently we're building 20 homes in Rifle, and those homes are going to be for working families as well as older adults. Again, they'll be net zero. And our target is we are only selling to 80% AMI households, and so that will keep the affordability there. And then we've been provided 2 parcels in Glenwood Springs, and there'll be up to 18 homes on those 2 parcels. Again, 80% AMI with 2 units being 100% AMI. And again, those 2 projects are for people that live and work in those communities. Live and work in retiring Rifle, live and work in Glenwood Springs, and that's our goal. We will be talking to this body here about a concept of some more homes here back in Basalt, and that will be in partnership with the Aspen Skiing Company, again, net zero. And then part of the conversations that are going on in Carbondale with that redevelopment. So looking at this number of homes in our pipeline to build in this valley, and when you're competing with $1,000 to $1,300 a square foot in Aspen, try to sell your homes at $175 a square foot.
Wow.
I mean, it is not even feasible. But what we have and are very aggressively pursuing is the opportunity to continue to build at scale, to make an impact and create neighborhoods. We believe in ownership housing. That's how you stabilize your community and you stabilize your workforce. As I've asked the council in the past, and I will ask the commissioners, 30% of your affordable housing stock, we would ask be ownership. That, again, teachers are not going to stay if they, in rental housing, et cetera. So what we're finding is we have identified in Rifle a parcel that is actually an UMTRA site. It is, it's the Rifle Innovation Energy Complex. Something of that nature. But this is a site that has been reclaimed by DOE, and it is available for development for energy efficient kinds of developments, industrial style. Our goal would be to build, and in very short order, on that site and be able to produce several hundred homes a year. And we are partnering with BOCES. Anyone familiar with BOCES? BOCES is a cooperative education service provided by the state of Colorado. But in this region, most importantly, the Colorado River region, they train the workforce. So our goal is, in partnership, we will build the facility. We have an MOU with them, build facility with them. We will have classrooms, we'll have training, we'll have equipment. What we're doing is building an advanced manufacturing workforce. They could provide as many as 50 of their students a year to work in this facility. This is a game changer. I've talked to Habitat from Summit. I will be in conversation with Vail, all the way to Grand Junction. We would like to be able to provide housing. We think we can build in a controlled environment facility a lot less expensive, certainly than we could ever envision building in this region. But creating jobs and building homes there and be able to, in an affordable way, bring them here. Right now, there's a plant, obviously, they're working with in Buena Vista. Those homes, no offense, but they're not net zero. We are going to build net zero homes and really find a way to work on, again, this technology of cold form steel rolling. Anybody want to talk to me about that? But I think that takes recycled steel. You build a home out of 3 wrecked cars, not an acre of forest. We feel that we are going to bring in there the technology, build a workforce, and then that region can attract and advance manufacturing into the future. So we're pretty jazzed about that. We feel that we can be able to, again, work with communities as we're committed to, as yourself. But just as a bottom line, I'm talking to someone who authored a growth management plan back in the day. I was designing communities and then ran the housing authority, and it was during a time when we had a lot of options. I would just stress that we have real issues around scarcity now in terms of our ability to build out. And when we're working with 10, 20, maybe 30% optimally of our new housing stock being dedicated to the workforce, we are at a very critical point of our economies being at risk. I'm going to ask, I don't want to throw a dart, is it 50%? What is the metric? I think that we need to analyze as a region. I would ask the coalition, what is the carrying capacity? of this valley, or this region for that matter. We don't have anyone sitting on the coalition actually from the Colorado River Valley. That's been our bedroom communities. They're building out their own communities, their own economies. But in this region, how much more can this highway handle? I mean, anybody driving up and down this hour of the day? How much more water? What are the constraints? Can we really address them? But right now, when you look at what you just saw, 250% AMI, that's not going to house anyone at the grocery store or anyone at the school district. That is, we need to look at, can we take what's coming online and look at raising the bar so we can preserve our communities and our culture by building our future housing stock to address the needs and stabilize our communities and stabilize our seniors. So that's me with my passion and vision, saying I'm asking our governments to not throw 10, 20, 30%. I'd love to flip the equation. Our inability to house our workforce is really at our own peril, because we have our economies and communities at jeopardy. So we know what the problem is. You can't hire a person for $40 an hour to sell donuts in Aspen. You know, that.
Great.
They go begging. So this is, I think that we're trying to take the lead, prove the feasibility
Well,
of
thank
the
you.
ability to develop. So thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I think there are, some sort of arrows here, looking at the Good Tree Farm site, with modern, some of the new building technology, the partnership. So that looks like a bright, shiny thing for us out there that, we can all keep the discussion going about, and that's a great one. So,
Can I ask a question? Does Eagle County have a breakdown of how many ownership units versus rental units?
We do. If you give me a minute, I've pulled up this inventory. Let me see if I can figure out how to find it in here.
Just a comment, the current Basalt housing stock is 15% ownership right now of your current housing stock.
How much, what is it?
15%.
So the other 85 is strictly rentals.
Of your current housing stock.
Of ours?
Yeah, Basalt,
No,
just
Basalt,
Basalt.
Basalt's definitely a deficit in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with you, Gail. It needs to be for sale, but.
There's county-wide, there has been a shortage of rental, and all the things you said about stabilizing community and needing to purchase is really true, and it's hard, when you look at affordable, it gets pushed towards that rental product, so the work you're doing is really.
Easy to do, but the problem is in 10 or 20 years, if it goes up 3% every year, it's not affordable anymore.
Right.
So it doesn't work. If somebody has a mortgage that's the same every month.
well, while Jeff's looking that up, this may be a good time to grab a piece of pizza. I think we have some cold beer here. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's LaCroix.
That's right, it's bubbly water.
So then we're going to turn to a discussion of climate initiatives. I think we're all into CC4CA, and I think there's a lot to talk about there and kind of where we are. We've just adopted some pretty, what we consider to be pretty advanced building code amendments with on-site renewable requirements and electric ready, and so pretty exciting stuff to talk about, and a lot of work to do though. So let's grab some pizza and we'll keep talking. Okay.
You're leading the way.
Jeff might have the answer, but I'll frame it to it's more to, I guess, the Eagle County Commissioners of how do you guys look at the traffic on Highway 82? It's not something that's totally in your purview. Eagle County only
So
covers
sad we just
probably a third of it from Glenwood to Aspen. It's in 3 different counties.
And we
But
cut off
it's-
the rest.
The more we develop, the more there's cars on it, regardless. Granted, we have an amazing bus system. you
I
know,
was just looking
I
at
just
the-
wonder if you guys
our
can, if you guys have seen it in the morning or the afternoon, and the amount of traffic, and I know we have a
I'll
great
get some over
partnership
to you then.
with CDOT, and I think you guys on linking all the lights in the Eagle County side with fiber. But I wonder in the greater scheme of things, what,
Sessions.
with this bus system, we should eliminate some of the cars, but the cars aren't stopping. And there's no true end in sight. I mean, I haven't seen any, I only see growth in the last 15 years. I'm sure at some point we will table off, but there isn't, and there's no easy solution, but I just wonder from your guys' standpoint and the land use you guys look at and what we have left in Eagle County, is that in the part of the conversation, not just,
None of your business.
we're never gonna build our way out of this, I guess is my statement, and, but what can we do to address these problems? And I think also Gail brought up the problems of what are our true carrying capacities, water, school, waste, yeah, obviously housing, childcare is also on the list. There's immense problems we're running into, and I think all mountain communities, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it through your whole corridor too. You know, I like to tell people we just have real world problems now, where we used to just
Third world
kind
problems.
of, yeah.
Yeah,
We used to be able to live in, you know, mountain bliss, and now we actually have,
Yeah, Bill arranged an accident for us as we were coming in on Friday to happen in Glenwood, just to drive the point home of going through traffic in the
Oh,
morning.
that's right, yeah.
So it was particularly bad when we were coming in on Friday. I'm glad you phrased it in that way too, because that's the way I think about this question. You can call it carrying capacity, but it's all those things: water, traffic, ecosystem impact, wildlife, all the impacts we're having on all those. And to me, it hasn't really been part of our conversation. I don't know if it's been part of yours, except for us to go, yeah, growth is a problem. Growth is also what we need. The one thing I always try to stress when anybody talking about you need growth is there's two ways we talk about growth. The one we really want is economic. And we always conflate the two of physical growth with economic. They're not the same thing. They are very related. But it is very possible to grow economically or to be in a state you're happy with. I'm from Minturn. Minturn has, in the last 60 years, we had 0 population growth for 50, and in the last 10, we lost a little under 5%. And Minturn has been Minturn the whole time. Now, we depend upon Vail's economy, which has dramatically grown. So physically, Minturn hasn't, but economically, we're fine. Never thrived, but we're just fine, and that's what everybody in Minturn's happy with. We're good.
yeah.
But that growth question is way bigger than all of us, and my personal opinion is we're gonna hit a resource restriction, namely water, before we hit our tolerance restriction of traffic. Well, maybe not. I think we're probably already past the tolerance
Yeah,
restriction.
no, it's a valid point.
But we don't know, because you're balancing this, personal property rights, which are not just state, they're federal, they're constitutional. Property rights with our ability to control growth in some ways. There's always limit to that control. You bump up against the constitutional property right. So the rule is you tell people what they can do, and it has to be relatively reasonable, and within that, you decide is what they're proposing within what you said they could do. And that's what our process is. At all the land use, and I'm sure you get this too, people might come in and say, listen, 80% of us are saying we don't want this. I'm like, great, but the land use regulations say they can do this. And our job is to determine, are they complying with the regulations, not do people like it? Because it's our master planning that's supposed to deliver that, right? It's supposed to say, here's what we want. Like, we want to stop growth. That's not an option ever on the table. So that's the kind of conversation I would love for us all to be having at much bigger levels than us. We are all stuck in some ways with what you're allowed to do, what you're not. In the future, I think those pieces of Eagle County, again, when we do community and master planning, is when we really, really want to tell people to come out and express those opinions about what we want, and then use those land use constraints, see how we can use water to control those elements of growth. But yeah, growth just comes.
Oh, it's definitely,
I would note that CDOT's traffic allowances never seem to match with the community's tolerance for,
Yeah.
CDOT always says, yeah, that's all right, you could do 5 times more and you'll still be in there, and the community is saying, we can, we're waiting so many cycles, our kids can't get to school. So there's a mismatch, and I don't know if that's an urban-rural thing or a single road through the valley thing or what, but it's clearly an issue.
I think it requires some out-of-the-box thinking that we haven't been as aggressive with. For us, we're super excited. We've got an RTA that I think, from our side of the valley, I think we can really work hard on eliminating some of the cars. I mean, I don't consider I-70 near as rough a situation as Highway 82 coming up from Glenwood. 82 is congested. But Kathy just introduced us to a program. We're just exploring it. Was a former Vail Town Council member. It's a ride share type. What do we call it?
Zip car.
Zip car. It's like your bike share program. You've got your little stations around for your bikes, and this is for a car.
Yep.
So you don't even have to own the car. I need to go to Willetts for groceries.
Aspen has a couple of those cars.
I do that and go do it and come back, and then and just to try to eliminate sometimes the needless chatter and the needless driving from here to there, and it's tough out west. I mean, everybody's car dependent. We want to go play, and I want to go rafting, and I want to do this or do that. But I think those are the kinds of things I think we have to.
Are they
the first
Teslas,
last
Jeff?
mile. I don't think necessarily they're all Teslas. We'll see.
They'd be on their way to California, so.
Right. I do think that the more we can encourage, the first last mile people to use transit. I mean, when I came up Friday, to come ski with you all, I know all the back roads to Glenwood, so I was trying to sneak around all that mess, and everybody that was following me were all contractors, just trucks with racks on the back, and they're coming up here doing something, and it's like, how do we, I think to the part that Gail mentioned, how do we get people, when you live in Basalt, you can work in Basalt. When you live in Glenwood, you can work in Glenwood. And I mean, there's folks coming from Grand Junction to do their thing in Aspen every day. And we have the same thing too. We've got Rifle to Vail. We've got, Zero. I mean, it's, how do we begin to break that down to where we encourage more housing closer to the employment centers so that it cuts down on that traffic? And, this is, what we're seeing. I mean, to me, I reflect on 82, and I've been in the valley. My parents were in Glenwood, so I've been here for a long time. It's a product of what we created.
For sure.
We did. It's the, billionaires moving the millionaires down and so forth and so forth. And now you've got the worker bees, your blue collars that are all in Rifle, Newcastle, Sill, and they're still up here doing the same work they always did.
But if you look also at what Aspen's done, and this is the one thing I struggle with, is that there are 3,000 beds up there. That community is technically affordable housing, if you look at the numbers.
3,000 units.
3,000 units, but if each of those units, is that 3,000 beds or is 3,000 units?
3,000 units.
Yeah, so there's even more beds. So you're talking 5,000 beds.
Right.
Even if you said 50% of those are the voting public, that's half the voting public is living in affordable housing. Not a bad thing, but that hasn't stopped what is created up there. You can't build your way out of the worker situation, and I think that's something that also needs to be in this conversation, is that as much as we want to have all our workers live here, it's a new problem that we have to deal with, that people have to commute. It's just like in a big city like New York. It's just now in a smaller community, and we have to realize that. And I think a thing like Zipcar is nice, and and we can add these things that are out of the box, but some of the stuff is not going to be solved by anything we can do as public officials, and it's a conversation that everyone needs to be having of new realities that are setting in on us that, you know, you can build the best bus line in the world, but you can't convince Americans to take it because we're Americans and we like driving cars. You know, I don't know that balance, and I don't know, you know, it's just something I struggle with, and I don't think it's talked about enough that, you know, even if we built all the affordable housing we could in Basalt, you know, you're gonna take 200 cars off the road out of 40,000 that are driving up. I mean, and some of those people don't wanna live here. And I think that's an honest part of the situation too. They wanna ranch in Rifle or Delta, you know, not Delta, but, you know.
I mean, even all the employees are still gonna drive,
Yeah.
so you're still putting cars on the road.
Well, it's just,
Cars are one of those examples where I think it gets into the difficult political thing, because there are things we can do. You make driving a pain in the rear. You provide no parking, you charge a lot of money for parking, you demote cars on the road. So there are all sorts of things. They are just very hard politically to do. But we kind of know what they are.
well, it's like to me, a
And they're
transit
still not
oriented.
effective. I
Yeah.
mean, look at Aspen, it's expensive to park, there is limited parking.
Somehow all those cars fit in there every
Somehow
day.
they still-
Well, I mean, money solves all problems to certain,
Yeah.
you know, but that's the equity part of it. I think the other, argument that I hear, it drove me nuts, and, you know, I've been living in Gypsum since 94, and you get, you know, I used to roll through the stop signs, and then when you put in a stoplight, you're like, oh my God, the traffic here is horrible. But the people that moved here, wherever they came from, they're like, this traffic is nothing. This traffic is nothing on Highway 82. Have you been to LA lately, or been to downtown Dallas, and wherever they came from?
Been to DC, but-
DC, I mean, it's just, and so it's somewhat a matter of a perspective, but from those of us who've lived here, yeah, heck yeah, we don't, you know, I just was blown away. I know I'm late to meet Kathy to get my ski ticket to meet all you folks, and God, I do not remember this many lights, and why are they all red? Coming up Highway 82, I don't, you know, that didn't used to be that way. It used to be a straight shot until you got to, you know, the Wendy's stoplight down here, but.
Well, I know we want to spend a little time talking about climate initiatives. I know Matt's been pretty involved, as we have. I think we're all pretty much rowing in the same direction. I don't know, if on your side, do you want to kind of summarize where you see us going? You know, I mentioned a few minutes ago that we recently have adopted two pretty significant measures. One was we adopted a policy document called the Roadmap to Net Zero, which gets us to really significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, mainly through building code, graduated building code changes, and a lot of electrification. And we also amended our building code, so we now require 25% on-site renewable for new single-family development that's about, was James 3 or Michelle 3 kilowatt hours per square foot or something?
25% of the energy use needs to
Yeah.
come from renewable sources.
So this is now code, and, you know.
And you're on the 21 now, right?
Beg your pardon?
You're on the 21? Almost.
So we're kind of getting after this, and so I'd love to hear what the county's perspective is on, you know, our CC4CA efforts, and see if we are seeing this the same way, and whether, you know, we can coordinate our efforts. Being part of the CC4CA, I think, is a great start, but don't know if there are other measures that you guys are thinking about that we should be aware of, and vice versa.
Bill, are you talking about the Eagle County Climate Action Collaborative?
Yeah.
That's not CC4CA.
Oh, no,
That's a
I'm
different
talking about-
organization.
No, I was talking about the Colorado, or what is CC4CA?
Just throw a bunch of-
I know, there's so many acronyms,
It's
it's
Colorado
crazy.
Communities for Climate Action, yeah,
Right.
that's the one, yeah.
We also sit on the Eagle County Climate Action Collaborative, so I wasn't sure which one you were
You are
referencing.
also members of CC4CA.
We are, yeah.
correct? Yeah, which is, has been, I'll say first about that, I've been really impressed with what CC4CA has gotten done, because so much of what benefits us, gives us, permissive authorities or creates state standards and programs that assist us, really were driven by CC4CA's efforts. So that organization has been great, so I really appreciate your membership there. I also want to say how much I appreciate Elise and Sarah taking all the time too for being engaged with our Climate Action Collaborative, which is all of Eagle County, but of course is very heavily weighted in the Eagle River Valley. I have also recently joined the core board because in all of those places, we keep talking more about what our regional opportunities are. And I expect that conversation will continue, and we'll start figuring out how we do these things in a much more regional basis. But it's funny too, because Basalt over here, as our Roaring Fork Valley town, has kind of been doing a lot of the stuff, leading in a lot of ways, just quietly doing all these things on your own. So I've been impressed with that, and really appreciate all those efforts. Relative to us, the most recent thing is we had a code cohort. The state has new requirements for energy code that I'm sure you're aware of, that if after June, I think it's June of this year, if you modify your code, you have to come up to 21, and they have these other options. They also funded some communities to do code cohorts, which is particularly for communities like either of ours, getting the building authorities together, trying to come up with standardization essentially in your code, which creates efficiencies for builders and everyone else, where you don't have to figure out which authority you're in and which code am I doing, how am I building this house versus that. And also trying to up the game from an energy perspective along those lines. So that cohort just completed its work in the Eagle River Valley. They've made a recommendation to go to the 21 code, to get all of the authorities on the 21 code, and also to do an electric preferred, which means you'll need to do some particular electric things, but if you're going to use gas, you have to do a number of other things, including do a comparative bid to achieving that with electricity, so that the owner or whoever knows what those, how those compare. And you have to meet other particular efficiency measures, so it kind of ups the rest of the code for efficiency if you're going to do gas. One of the options that our staff has presented to us too is all electric. And that means that no gas is allowed in construction, and you can do that residential or commercial or both. So they're working through a lot of that at the staff level, and we'll be discussing what option the county will do, as well as the other authorities will be talking about what they want to do based on what that cohort recommends, that they're proposing as a floor for the valley as codes, and then each one of us would look there or higher. What did I miss?
No, I think that's good. Just sort of a non-code thing is we have a couple of potential big ideas, which came out of Jeff's brain, that looking at our landfill as an energy source and what might we be able to do with that. There's a biomass plant in the town of Gypsum, and what might we be able to do with that as we look towards electrification and creating our own resiliency program for the county based on those two potential energy sources. So I know Pitkin County's been doing some work with methane capture with the coal mines along the Crystal. You know, that's something that we can look at with our landfill as well.
Yeah, and I will say, you probably saw that we passed the Regional Transportation Authority, so we're getting our own RAFTA. That the board has already begun, and Jeannie serves on that board as well. Again, when you talk about cars, like, kind of drives me crazy. All this money we are pouring into electric cars, that is still 3,000 pounds moving around 160 pounds. If we can really create great transit and first, last mile, door-to-door solutions for people, where cars are either a pain or there are just better options. So we're getting our own RAFTA that'll help us get to where you guys are, and I'm presume in the future too that RAFTA's got a lot of potential to create much better solutions as well. If we, think about where we put our money. If we decide to stop buying $50,000 electric cars for each one of us and throw that into a transit, what could we do?
Does the gypsum biomass plant have any carbon capture feature to it, or? No.
No, they land apply the char that comes off there, but we've had some preliminary conversations with them. There's some modifications they can make, and provide for even some better product that's, for sequestration and that kind of stuff. What we're really trying to work with them too is sort of a paper shuffle thing that they're doing now. It's just expensive power they put into the grid. They can produce 10 megawatts, maybe 12 megawatts. I mean, they can light up Eagle and gypsum. And we're trying to get it to a place where that's the message. Because the biomass plant typically will only, it's not like the Northwest where they just cut trees. They're cutting, mostly it's all beetle kill.
Yeah.
And they're starting to get into more stewardship contracts as we're with the Wildfire Collaborative. So, the Forest Service and the fire officials, are identifying places much closer than what they've been capturing their timber from. So we're up Gypsum Creek, we're up Brush Creek, we're up Gypsum Creek now, which is a much shorter haul, so it's becoming a lot more efficient of an operation.
Yeah. Well, cool. So anybody want to comment on climate action?
I know cars are evil, but, we just found out today Hertz is going to go, they'll be 100% electric of their 500 car rentals at the airport within the next 3 years.
Wow.
So they'll be, they do have an exclusive contract with Tesla, which is now across the street from, so I don't know if that's part of it, but yeah, they're gonna be really aggressive. And the good news to that is all the other car companies are going to fall. They're all going to head that direction, and they're already starting to do that. So almost all the car rentals that you'll see at Eagle County Regional Airport will be electric.
Yeah, and Tesla did.
Is Holy Cross going to be able to keep up?
Well, I mean, that's some of the great, we have a really cool process that we're working with them right now, and actually, Matt calls it Matt 2.0 with one of the council members with the town of Eagle, Jeff Grimmer, and, we're talking about a lot of battery. There's a lot of solar opportunities at the airport so that they can bolster, the power grid that, we're definitely trying to get to the airport to get to net zero. The Jet Center side is the private FBO side is already working that direction very aggressively. So
Cool.
Yeah, Tesla is about to open up its only West Slope dealer repair. Maintenance. For gypsum.
They can fix their CEO problem, maybe.
Big shop for that.
Well, the last item we had on was just a quick update on early childhood discussion. We've been at many different, we have a lot of capital facility potential here, and not so much on staffing and operations, although, Ryan, maybe you can give us a summary of what's cooking here, and maybe you guys have some thoughts.
Sure. Just a little bit of an update, and we have some of our staff here that are, been really the ones grinding away at this issue for a number of years now. But the parcel 2E, which is down in Willits Town Center, is still in play. We are working with Blue Lake Preschool to ultimately build a facility on that site, which will be a fairly large facility, somewhere in the range of 10,000 square feet-ish. I know there's a few different options for it. But the idea with it is that it offers sort of a continuum of care for the little ones, starting at infants and going up to the toddler age, which seems to be the business model that we understand from Blue Lake Preschool really works for them. As always, we keep hearing about the challenges of housing those workers. We are fortunate recently with the completion of the hub, which was Aspen Skiing Company's development to house some of their own employees down in Willits Town Center. 8 of those units are set aside with a priority for daycare workers, and I think all of those are occupied by daycare workers. So, so that was a successful model. So as we continue the discussion about daycare, we often find about affordable housing, we often find ourselves talking about essential workers and thinking along those lines with this class of worker, I think is pretty important for us. We are later in the agenda tonight talking about a daycare facility that's being built in Stotts Mill, and whether that continue forward as a daycare facility or some other public benefit use in there. But I would say for the benefit of the public, I think everybody in this room knows, but there has been a child care coalition that's been a long-standing collaborative effort that includes representatives from Eagle County, from Pitkin County, from the town of Basalt, to the actual child care providers. And I think without that collaborative, it would have been hard to be where we are today. So there is funding that comes from the government's. Town of Basalt puts about $90,000 a year into program development, education, capital expenses for childcare. I know Eagle County contributes as well. I'm just not sure the amount, Pitkin County. So, I think we are putting our best foot forward, but as with many of the issues that we face, this is a difficult one to solve. And I don't know that you ever fully get there without, some creative thinking and collaboration among all of us. So that's what I have really for that.
So,
I would like to extend a thank you to Eagle County, as I sit on the Child Care Coalition with Angela. You guys have made some really great moves on incentives for helping with rent, helping with further education of the child care workers, some bonuses for retention, and I think that's gone a long way. I hear during the meeting the owners of the facility and the people that run the facility are definitely grateful for that.
It may have flown a little bit under the radar here because most of you probably didn't get the question of the lodging tax, but Eagle County, unincorporated Eagle County, and the town of Gypsum residents got a question this year whether or not to support a 2% lodging tax that would go to childcare and affordable housing. It couldn't be asked across the board. If anyone already had a lodging tax, you couldn't ask it there. And in all of our county, that left only Gypsum, who didn't have a lodging tax. So we expect that lodging tax, which did pass overwhelmingly, will generate about $3 million a year. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, we do have some buckets of money that are set aside for housing right now. And $3 million will not make a dent in housing. So we really are looking to put the vast majority of that towards childcare. 10% of it needs to go to a marketing board, which doesn't exist yet, but will. And we will have a marketing board spending that 10%. And then the rest will, in the short term, in the next couple of years, go to childcare. And so there is a group, and we hope that somebody from the Basalt Child Care Coalition will come and sit on it as well. That'll make recommendations as to what programs we currently have and what needs are that we could develop programs for. So we're hoping to expand. Maybe there's a connection between that money and childcare and affordable housing, because our child care workers also need housing. And so maybe there's an opportunity in our future around that too.
thank you.
And it includes finding out who does short-term rentals, because we just recently had the ability to license short-term rentals. So that was step one, and then step two will be applying this lodging tax. So it will go to hotels and also to anybody who's renting for 30 days or less. So Beaver Creek, Arrowhead, we've got some good target areas.
Well, sorry to cut this short, but maybe it's not so short. We've been about it for an hour and a half. So at this, we have a sort of noticed town council meeting that we got to turn to now. But
Kicking us out.
we want to thank the Eagle County Commissioners for coming over. And we'd be more than pleased to come over and visit you. We'd have to consult the weather schedule, make sure there's decent snow on Vail Mountain.
And we'll get you our housing flyer. We have a
That would be
really,
fantastic.
really pretty brochure, all of our housing, all the data, all in one little
In
brochure.
another year and a half or so, you can all just bike over all the way.
There you go.
Oh,
That's
correct.
right.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, thank you guys for coming over. It's good discussion, and we do this more often.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
dinner.
Thank you for
Thank
dinner.
you. Great.
So with that, without any further ado, I would like to, we're going to get Pam to come up here. We need our, can't do anything without our town clerk, so. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. We just completed our work session with Eagle County Commissioners, which was excellent and productive. So now we turn to our regular council meeting. So with that, Pam, I'd ask that you call the roll.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Bill Kane,
Here.
Dieter Schindler,
Present.
Angela Anderson,
Here.
Glenn Drummond, David Knight,
Here.
Elise Hoddle,
Present.
and Ryan Slack.
Here.
The A-team is present. Thank you.
Okay, next order of business is our consent agenda, which looks like now we are down to basically one item, which are minutes from January 10th, 2023. So I'd entertain a motion to approve consent
Mayor, I
agenda.
move the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you for that. So at this point, I would make a call to the public. Anyone that would care to address the town council on any topic that is not on the agenda later on this evening, we would invite you to come up and address council. And of course, that stands for anybody that's calling in virtually as well. So if anybody in the audience would like to address the council on a topic not on the agenda tonight, so, okay. So again, if anybody's watching in, calls in, we can certainly take your comment as we move along. But with that, we will move on to our meeting. Our next order is mayor and council reports and comments. Anybody like to provide a report or comment? Glenn?
I attended the Basalt Emergency Management Committee last week. I gave the committee an update on Midland Avenue streetscape and the scheduling of it. Got some feedback from them. Most of the feedback concerns like the center islands, the trees, public works, police, fire. Nobody's really in favor of having a tree in the center of the street. For one, it's going to affect aerial firefighting. Two, it creates icing issues that you're going to have to take care of. And secondly, where the trees are placed to make sure that line of sight for turning. Those were main things that were heard from there.
Has that been provided to the town staff?
It's, yeah. I had asked that and
Yeah.
they said that they had all
Got
been
it.
told that, but
Sure.
just wanted to give everybody the update. And then, as with fire, police, and Eagle County, the employee shortages is a problem as well as employee housing, so I don't think that's different for anybody else, but quick update.
Thanks. Anyone else? Elise?
The West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition, which you heard referenced earlier, had our first board retreat, and we're working on a strategic and organizational plan. So I think one thing that's really sentient to what we just discussed is we established that the parameters of the area served will be Pickens County and Garfield County, and then we will act as a referral agency to Eagle County because they already have all of the programs that we might be interested in providing at this point. If at some future point we develop a program that Eagle County does not offer, then we would offer it to Eagle County residents.
Good news. I would like to offer a few comments. One is congrats to our staff. We landed 2 pretty sizable grants that are really important. One was to support our solar renewable initiative, so on our green projects. So that was pretty fantastic. And then we also landed $500,000 to assist on our Main Street, on our downtown street improvements. So, you know, it's a good week's work to land a little over $1 million of grant funds. So that's all good news. I already thanked Eagle. We had a really good meeting with the commissioners and Eagle County staff last Friday. And tomorrow is the Basalt Chamber Ski Day. So anybody wants to go out and ski snowmass tomorrow? What time do we know? Like 10 o'clock or? Yep.
I could probably tell you here.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I don't know off the top of my head. All day.
Promise of no flat light or cold temperatures. It's going to be great. Of course, none of that's true. It's gonna
While we're waiting on that, I would like to thank Picken County Open Space and Trails and the Nordic Council for getting our trails groomed down
great.
here in
Hey,
Basalt.
excellent, thanks.
They're skiing great, and it's just
nice.
an awesome amenity on the
Yeah.
Rio Grande. And
I guess we
do
got
now
some-
the up and down too. My kids love that, so
Yeah, it's
really cool thing to have.
yeah, I think they halted the construction project up there too, so we're not going to have trucks rolling on the Rio Grande Trail, which is good news.
So it looks like it's at, Michelle just found it, 9:45, and that would be, here I have it as well, meeting at Snowmass, as you said, by the gondola.
At the gondola, let's say. Okay, all right, thanks. That's it for that. Any other comments? Manager report this week? Mr. Manager?
Sorry. Well, to just follow up on your the grant acknowledgement, I did sign that contract today with CDOT, so we are locked in on that one. So that is the $500,000 grant to help supplement costs with the Midland Avenue project. And from a staff level, right now, there's a lot of discussions happening on coordination of projects for the summer. Not only have department heads been kind of getting their own staff lined out on things, Doug has been doing a lot of work on trying to get financial information to those that are taking the lead on a given project, and then where there's crossover on projects among departments, there's effort to create coordination there. We just have a very full plate as far as our projects go, capital projects for the summer. And one to highlight, of course, is the coordination for completing the River Park with the bathroom, bus shelter, and band shell, which is going to happen starting in spring, while simultaneously trying to work on the Lightning Bolt project, which will complete a sewer improvement from the Basalt Center Circle project over to the new River Park. So making sure that whomever that contract ends up being awarded to is aware and is working with the contractors for the other projects. And then, of course, we have our big project over here that'll start on the Midland Spur, sometime most likely late March, and then that'll be a summer's long or years long project before they pull out for the cold weather. So all of that stuff's happening in the background, and we're hoping to put our best foot forward with it. That's all I got for you for now.
Great, any questions for our town manager? Okay, thanks, Ryan. Next up, we have a work session scheduled for Stotts Mill Daycare, Michelle and James. So,
Yeah, let me
We have
please share my screen here, just a minute. This item is a work session to discuss the Stotts Mill Daycare. As background, Stotts Mill approvals required the developer to build a 4,000 square foot corn shell daycare space and rent it at rents that would be 80% of the market rate for daycares in the Mid-Valley. And just as background, it's located right here in the Stotts Mill development. Here's the multifamily piece, here's all the single-family lots, and then here's South Park that has the tennis courts and multi-purpose courts, and the daycare is located here on the corner. The ordinance of approval gives a guidance to the property, and it indicates that if there is not a daycare provider that's found, that the council could either put another public use in the facility or could be converted to 2 Category 2 affordable housing units. It also gives a time frame of up to 180 days after the core and shell CO on the daycare space to find that daycare provider. However, town staff has been trying to find a daycare provider to occupy the space by advertising through the Child Care Coalition meetings, as well as going to existing daycare providers in the Mid-Valley and approaching them about providing the daycare for the spot. But several have discussed it with their boards, and we still haven't been able to sign up anybody to be a provider at the site. The developer, MSP1, would like to finish out the space as 4 category affordable housing units, and they've drawn up a draft floor plan for 4 deed-restricted units, and so that's in your packet. Another potential public use has also been identified, which is that it could be a youth center. Staff has had some conversations with Basalt Education Foundation, as well as representatives from the Aspen Youth Center, who believe that opening a youth center similar to Aspen's would be feasible in the space. So this evening, Planning Director Michelle Bonfils-Thibault can update council on the youth center discussions that have went on. And we also have the developer, Briston Peterson, is here this evening as well to provide comments. So staff would suggest that council hear comments from Michelle as well as Briston, and then provide a discussion about what council thinks would be the ultimate goal for the space. So Michelle, do you have?
Yeah, thanks, James. So part of the 2020 master plan, some of the top 20 public input topics included expanding program offerings for our youth, creating a rec center, daycare facilities, and a recreation center. Oh, I said that one twice. Safe spaces for youth was the other one. And as you have all been aware of lately, we've heard updates from the Hope Center and from Youth Zone on the mental health and needed support of our youth population in town. As we know, Basalt is the only community in the valley without a rec center and a designated space outside of the schools for our youth. So that information combined with the difficulty in securing a daycare provider, we've been looking at alternatives for what else could be in this space. I did reach out to Aspen Youth Center and BEF, Basalt Education Foundation, just to see what does it take to do something else. We have a lot of programs for our elementary school and younger students, but we don't for our kids who are middle-aged school or higher. And for example, our rec director tonight, Matt Kay, is at a elementary school basketball game. We have lots of those going on. Those are great. And I asked him what his experience is in regards to getting inquiries about having programs and offerings for middle school and high school students, and he says he gets them often. But his only answer can be that we just don't have space or availability to program for that. He also commented, of course, about being the only community without a rec center or a safe space for youth. And that as a former educator, he has personally watched how the mental health issues and crisis of our kids in the Valley have changed over the past 15 years. So he is, of course, a big advocate for going forward and willing to help lead some strategic planning, visioning, and missions for the space if that's a direction that council decides to go. The goal of speaking with these other groups was really just to understand the opportunities and constraints of the space. Is it a decent size? Is it an okay location? And frankly, is this something the town could be a partner with or go forward with without getting our nose over our skis, so to speak? There is a lot of energy and excitement and many different groups that would like to participate. And that's something we would have to suss out if council is interested in going that direction. We don't have an answer. There's not a provider. There's not a network tonight. There's just a lot of interest in seeing this go forward from those two groups. And I think mainly we found that there's not a major red flag. Of course, there are issues, funding, who's going to do it, how do we staff it up, but there's not a deal breaker to providing that service at this time. So if council, after hearing Briston's report, if you're interested in going forward, I would anticipate that at a future meeting, staff would come back with a framework on how to move this process forward.
Over the years, haven't we had conversations with Aspen, it was called the Youth Center at one point. I forget, Deb, something, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the names, but I thought we had some. Oh, there she is. Sorry.
They're all here, Bill.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
I think the challenge has been that we haven't had a space or a building historically, and now we have a different opportunity in front of us. Raising the funds to actually provide this space has been a big deal breaker historically, I believe.
Has there been a reoccurring sort of theme when we're talking to child care providers of why they wouldn't want to build a space out?
Yeah, I mean, among many issues, but one thing that seems to be part of the story is that the business plan has changed a little bit, whereas once they had smaller schools with fewer classrooms for very age-specific groups, now they're wanting to have bigger facilities where the teachers can go back and forth from different classrooms, and the model's changing. We're seeing that over at the Blue Lake and Willits. The bigger the facility, the more they can provide. It's just sort of a different from, I mean, we think about that this was approved many years ago for recent history. I think the business model has changed as well. Yeah, we double and triple checked. It was a kind of a startling revelation, frankly.
And how long have we been looking for a provider? How long have we been inquiring about that?
We've been talking about it for over a year, a year and a half, especially since Briston broke ground. He was always in a holding pattern until Briston had the final approval. I think we were also kind of somewhat restrained into the building envelope Briston had, and this was the one building that was going to be for a public good / childcare facility. So it wasn't designed from the ground up as this. It was more of a, let's make it was a great idea on paper, and now we're finding that there's a couple more hurdles to cover.
And has the certificate of occupancy been issued?
No.
No, the building's anticipated to be completed this spring at some point.
So this is a work session. It looks like we have a lot of people here interested. It's not a public hearing, but if the council's amenable to it, we can hear from some folks in the audience that may have an opinion, including Briston. So you want to do that?
Should we hear from Briston first?
Yeah.
Pardon?
Briston first.
Okay.
And then we can hear from Basalt and Aspen Youth.
Evening, Briston.
Evening.
Welcome to the friendly
Yeah,
confines.
it's good to be back. As many of you may or may not know, I'm one of the principals of MSP Development Group. that has been working on Stotts Mill for 18 years now, James? So and what was deceptive is that the photograph that James put up, we're much further along, right? We effectively have first building occupied in the apartment. If you remember, we have a four-building apartment complex of 64 units. The first building is occupied, fully leased. The second building will come online March 15th, fully leased. Third building is about 2 months later, fully leased. Fourth building, we're close to having that building fully leased, which will be finished by the end of August, September. And I want to thank staff, first of all, on we have been intimately involved trying to find a daycare provider for a couple of years now. And I've participated in the Daycare Coalition meetings and explored some resources. I had some brokers out there looking for a daycare provider. And the fundamental question that kept on coming back is, Kristen, this is a great idea in concept and in theory, but one of our biggest issues in this community is we don't have housing for our teachers. And I could share with you categorically, I'm on the front line of seeing the demand for housing, not only in Basalt, but also in Carbondale. We have about close to 200 units in our portfolio, and we're filling them up. And what we're seeing in the industry is not only individual users, but we're seeing all types of companies and corporations up and down the Roaring Fork Valley that they have come to a conclusion that if they cannot provide housing for their employees, they don't have a sustainable business. And that is a theme in this community and up and down the Roaring Fork Valley, as we all know. So when I look back 18 years ago when we conceived Stotts Mill, the purpose of the community was to have affordable, attainable housing for the worker bees of this valley. And we have done just that. And to give you an idea, we sold out all of the lots in 47 days. Okay, so you're going to start seeing people with their dream homes start going up in fabrication in spring of next year. And when the article got published in the paper yesterday, I actually had 5 phone calls that I talked to of lot owners that said, what are we doing here? You know, we're putting a youth center in the center of our community, our housing community. We don't want this, okay? I really don't have any skin in the game. I could share with you, the demand that we see in housing is real. It's not going away. We need to provide affordable, attainable housing for our citizens in this valley, and this is an opportunity to effectively put 4 more housing units into that stock, which would be 3 2-bedrooms and 1 1-bedroom. One of the concerns I have about, a youth facility is we're in the home stretch. I'm trying to get this community built out. I'm trying to secure permanent financing. I'm trying to set up this community for success. And in the construction world, between now and September is not far away. When I grew up, I played sports, right? So my after-hours activities were sports, but also in the high school that I went to and the middle school I went to, there was arts and there was facilities and there was dance classes and there was science classes and there was wood shop and there was all these other things. The whole notion of a youth center is, I'm not familiar with that concept. I do know what worked and what didn't work in Aspen. I could share with you the 4 phone calls that I received today from the lot owners, the stake owners in the community. Really want to see housing in the community because that is really what this program's about. One of the concerns I have is that what Michelle touched upon is who's going to pay for it. Our obligation is to build a building, have 4,000 square feet of a core and shell. Well, if you simply take 4,000 square feet and you multiply $250 a foot, that's $1 million. Okay, so does does this organization have the capacity to put up $1 million to finish off the space to occupy this for the intended use? My concern is timing, regardless of what the public use is. I think the best service for the space is housing, because that's the ultimate goal of what Stotts Mill is about, is to provide housing for the worker bees, the people that can't afford the ability to buy a secure house. There's an opportunity to rent under the Affordable Context Program. And as the developer sitting here, we're willing to put about $1.4 million into the space to build out this affordable housing. So we're poised, we're positioned, the building is dried in, we have windows installed, and we are literally on standstill until we come to a conclusion on what we're going to do with this space. And we're anxious to finish the Stotts Mill project. So I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Kristen. Hey, well, I guess not pertinent necessarily to this discussion, but congratulations on the progress, the project, the quality of the finishes, the scale of the buildings. I think everybody that I've talked to in town is not that they didn't expect great things, but very pleasantly surprised with just design and sort of sensitivity.
Yeah, Mayor Kane, I appreciate that. We've taken a conscious effort to use local architects in the community. We've taken a conscious effort to use local subcontractors to build the assets. It cost us more ultimately, but we're trying to keep the dollars in the community. We've done simple things by, we have 8-foot ceilings, 9-foot ceilings in many conditions. We have 8-foot doors. So I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to tour within the Stotts Mill buildings, but feel free to stop by and see Larry, who is our project superintendent, and we'd be more than glad to tour you through the assets so that you can see the quality of the product that we're building for the people in this community that cannot afford housing.
Yeah. No, you didn't skip on the exterior materials. That's pretty obvious. It was
Yeah.
nice to see some of the masonry finishes and, pretty good deal. So thank you.
Well, good. Well, thank you. If there's
All right.
no other questions.
Can I ask a clarifying
Yeah.
question?
Anybody.
So
Just pitch in here.
deed restricted, are you talking about category 2? What are you talking about for the 4?
Yeah, so.
4 units, it doesn't say that, and in the
James,
ordinance, it
I don't
says.
think we've worked out those details, but we're talking about effectively, we have 3 2-bedrooms and 1 bedroom, and then we have 2 units above, so this would be.
What I see here is it says series of 2017, 2 deed restricted category 2 rental units.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the ordinance, what you're proposing is not the same language as the ordinance, so I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I'm
what you're
proposing, first of all, there's 4,000 square feet. You're not gonna have 2,000 square foot units. I'm more than glad to circulate these plans. So the ability to put 4 units in there, we have enough parking to satisfy that demand. And whether we comply to the 20% deed restriction, which was approved, I'm willing to offer we make them all deed restricted. What I heard earlier here is, the essential care, whether it's the policemen, the firemen, the teachers, all those types of things. I'm willing to say, let's put 4 units in there and let's make them all deed restricted. James and I can work out the category units, and let's get housing for the people that need it in this community.
So that's not ironed out yet. Okay, that's all I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, this is what I understand a work session. I think there's little subtleties that James and I would have to sit through, but I'm willing to put all my chips on the table and say, let's make a business decision and move forward, and let's get housing out there for our community and make it all deed restricted.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Are there others that would like to chat with council about this idea tonight? So Deb, it is Deb, right?
No, this is Michaela.
Michaela. Michaela. That's Michaela Shipman's sister.
So I know some of you. Hello.
Hi.
My name's Michaela Eidhammer Kipera. I am the executive director of Aspen Youth Center. I've been there for 8 years. We opened 31 years ago, so some of you may know the facility, some of you may not, but after long discussions with my board, and where we're at in the timeline of this, it would be, capital campaigns for something like this are generally 3 to 5 years, not 3 to 6 months. And the idea to fill this space right now and the location is basically, for us, not an option. However, I would love to, at some point in the future, talk to the town of Basalt about other opportunities and give the knowledge we have from failed youth centers that, I know you know Sue, failed youth centers leading up to our opening in 1991, and why we've succeeded for 31 years at this point, as a free after-school and all-day summer program for kids in 4th through 12th grade. And we do serve a lot of Basalt kids. So we do have kids as far away as Parachute coming in when they don't have school. So there is a need for that, but while this seems like an awesome opportunity, I don't think it is currently the opportunity for us. And so I just wanted to say that. And
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you provide just a little detail of what it costs to run your youth center? And maybe not everyone knows the location of where you are.
Right.
And the staffing you have and the...
So we are located in the Aspen Recreation Center. We used to be located in the Tasters building in Aspen. And when the ARC was being built, we piggybacked on the construction costs. This is a very brief history. We piggybacked on the construction costs and opened up the youth center. We have 6,200 square feet in the rec center, but we are not part of the city of Aspen. We are not part of the rec center. We just are housed there. So we're very fortunate for that. We paid for that space. We paid for the build out, so we have no mortgage, no rent. And in the exchange, because if you've been to the rec center, there is a hockey rink and a pool, they cover the cost of our utilities as well in that exchange, because we obviously don't use as much power and water as either of those two things. So that's where we're located, and we've been located there since they opened in 2003. And like I said, prior to that, we were in the Tasters building. And we do serve 4th through 12th grade. So the majority of the kids are 4th through 8th and 9th grade. And then we have 3 adult staff. Which sounds insane because it is a little insane. And we have high school staff, so we do employ high school and college students. We currently have 9 high school kids who come and work after school and then all day in the summer. And we are open approximately 48 weeks a year. If you compare it to a school district, we have face-to-face time about 800 hours more than the school district with the kids. So we are open like all the time, it feels like. But we do serve the older kids that often don't have a place to go, and with a variety of programming. So.
And what kind of budget do you have?
Oh, our budget this year is $557,000. But again, if we had rent or a mortgage on a 6,200 square foot space right across from the Aspen School District, it would be significantly higher than that. So, yeah. Space is obviously, as we all know, an issue and a premium in this community. So,
Can you give us a little color on what programs, what does the center look like? What do kids do, and what are the activities and events?
So we are open 10 to 6 during the school year, and normally during the day we do all our admin stuff, planning, and we also have the high school kids come over and hang out during their breaks. And then in the summer we're open 9 to 6, Monday through Friday. And the programming we offer ranges from our kind of core programs, which are cooking, art, science, and lots of athletic things. So dodgeball is very popular. We have a half-court indoor gym with basketball, dodgeball, and then we have a full kitchen that we renovated just a few years ago. We also have a media room, a computer lab, a game room with pool, ping pong, air hockey, that kind of thing, and a high school room that is kind of like a loungy area, and then our offices. So that's like the basic layout. You're all welcome to come see it if you feel like it ever. And then we also offer a academic support program, which actually came out of the pandemic. We opened in June of 2020 to in-person services. We were alone in the building. It was kind of interesting. And started serving kids with daily activities. And then we transitioned, because the schools didn't open, to in-person to supervised learning. And we found this massive gap in education and reading levels, kids struggling with virtual education. So we have provided over $65,000 worth of free academic support through Aspen Learning Lift, which is our academic partner. So families who cannot, it's needs-based. If you can pay, you pay. If you can't, there's funding for that. And then we have our outdoor program, which we took 50 kids flying with EcoFlight last summer, rafting, rock climbing, horseback riding, with wind walkers. So we partner a lot with the community to use what exists. One of the parents asked us if we owned horses and rafts, and I was like, no. We partner with what the community already provides to make those things happen, but we do cover the cost for anyone who cannot afford it.
Good.
So, yeah.
Anybody else?
What kind of finishing in the building would be needed, and then maybe compared to a daycare? I mean, you mentioned cooking, so you probably need some kind of cook and.
I mean, cooking is probably one of the most popular programs we have, other than our outdoor programs. And if you've ever been to a party at someone's house, everyone ends up in the kitchen, and it's the same at the youth center. We sit there and we talk and we cook. We do art in that room. We do science in that room. So the kitchen's kind of a hub and is, unfortunately, not a cheap thing to build out compared to just like rooms. But yeah, I mean, a full kitchen is, I think, necessary. If we were to open in either Basalt or Carbondale, I would never want it to feel like not the same. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would want it to feel the same, like the same program, because we have a lot of Basalt kids. They generally come on Wednesdays at early release, on their days off, like last Monday, or during the summer.
David, I would.
4,000 square feet, big enough.
I think 4,000 square feet seems a little small because of also the layout of the space. But, ultimately it's a funding issue. Raising that much capital in that short of a time, we can't cannibalize our current donors and our current fundraising. There are things out there that raise or donate money to this type of project, but generally they've allotted their 2023 funding. They've allotted, and that's why those things are 3 to 5 years long, because it takes some time to get those relationships in place and those asks made, and how much is it really going to cost? What are all the nuts and bolts details of the cost? And I'm not a developer, I'm not a builder, I don't personally know all that, so it also hiring consultants and those kind of things to help with it. And nothing's a fast-moving process, unfortunately. So.
One of the things about finishing out the space as a youth center rather than a daycare is that a daycare has licensing requirements, and so there's a lot more flexibility in how we would want to finish out the space. We could start small and then build up. Using AYC's program could be kind of a foundation for where we go forward, but there are lots of different ways to get contractors to participate and asks to come in and fund a room, fund a kitchen, fund build out. That's a conversation we've been having with Basalt Education Foundation. There's, as we all know, a different economy that's come up now in Basalt, and I think there are probably ways to get to that funding, and that would be something we would flush out if you direct staff to go that way.
Can we hear from Basalt? Can we hear from those guys?
One more quick one. How many,
Yeah.
on average, how many kids do you serve a day?
So during the after-school time, our average has been this year 60 kids after school, but we are, to Michelle's point, we are not licensed. We never have been. We do that on purpose. We probably wouldn't be allowed to cook, have kids with knives. We always joke about that, like the licensing is strict, and that's why we also serve older kids. But the model has worked for a long time, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit as well, so it is a nonprofit organization, and so. And then in the summer, it's generally over 100 kids a day.
So, just from a geographic perspective, though, it sounds like the location in relation to the Basalt High School is kind of equivalent to where you're at. Would you?
So if you know the Aspen School District, all the schools are on the same campus, and there is literally a bridge that goes over the road. They don't have to cross a road. It takes, they get out of school at 3, they're there by like 3:02. It's, so that it's right there. For the younger kids, I would say the middle school included, the closer it is to them, the better. So they can't stray and do whatever, as close as possible is always best. And, if you've ever worked with children, high school kids are notoriously difficult to engage. They generally want to work, or if they have to volunteer for something. And so the high school kids are not as big of a portion as that fifth, for us, 4th through 8th grade, but if we did it down here, it'd probably be 5th through 8th grade. And, those kids are, it's almost a little late for prevention, but that it's really more preventative that they have somewhere to be. You look at all the studies, that's the key, that they have somewhere to be with trusted adults that they want to be around. And our staff is highly trained, so I don't have a childcare background, but since I've been there, I've always worked with kids, but I was not a teacher, et cetera, but I have, mental health first aid training, trauma-informed care training, all the ally training, all the training. So we pride ourselves in making sure those things are happening as well, so, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michaela.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that update. Does anybody else want to address council on this issue while we're meeting on it?
I would look too, real quick.
Hey, everybody. My name's Amy Honey, and I'm the Executive Director of the Basalt Education Foundation. So I've had some nice conversations with Michelle and Michaela both about this whole topic. And just would like to say from my perspective, as somebody who interacts with teachers, with principals, with a lot of families, I have 3 kids myself in the Basalt schools, just would like to kind of echo what Michelle said about the mental health situation. And it's just something that I hear a lot. What are we doing for our kids? How can we help out? And I also hear a lot of, how come we don't have a rec center? How come there's nowhere for the kids to go? My kid hangs out at 7-Eleven after school. So whether this can happen now at the Stotts Mill site or later somewhere else, would just like to kind of really affirm that it's critical, it's important. And also just wanted to say one other piece. Briston was talking about, after school activities, and especially in those younger grades that Michaela was kind of mentioning, that 4th through 8th, maybe 6th through 8th. There are a lot of wonderful activities in the Valley. A lot of them can be very expensive and be very difficult for families to access if they don't have a parent to get them where they need to go. I have the luxury of being able to drive my kids to wherever it is at 3:45 in the afternoon, but a lot of parents just can't. Once you get into school sports and things, which starts in 7th grade, it does get easier. But even then, there's an equity piece, an inclusion piece, I think, that kind of is in play here. And as much as I wish, every kid could go do 57 things after school every day, that's just not the reality for a lot of families. So again, however this happens or wherever or whenever, I think there's a huge need. And I know Basalt Education Foundation would be so excited about an opportunity to work on something like this, bring in other community partners, work with the town. So I think that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Amy. That's good to hear. Years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when we were talking about this, and you come up against this almost insurmountable sort of front-end cost for land acquisition, physical construction, tenant finishes. I mean, it's daunting to try to launch something of that scale. So we talked about other options, which were kind of like a rolling start, and we looked at space at Valley Pines. I don't know, I think you walked through that with us maybe years ago.
Yeah, we talked about Valley Pines.
Yeah, and I just think it would be worthwhile getting that group back together and try to keep some momentum going. for this, because it's obviously critically needed. And, you know, it just maybe Stotts Mill isn't, you know, while it seems perfect, it seems like the time, you know, we missed the window here. But Glenn, I don't know if that thing's still available or.
Still available.
Yeah, I mean, there may, you know, maybe start small, you know, try to do this in increments.
Valley Pine's not smaller space though than the 4,000 square
Oh,
feet
yeah,
we're
way
talking
smaller.
about.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, I'm talking about, you know, also, we're not, probably not talking 60 kids either, so.
And the problem is the kitchen's leased. And the upstairs office is leased.
So, Amy, on the feasibility, is the financial bit about the same length of time that you would think Aspen Youth Center was? Like, is it, you know, like, to build the funds to make it happen? I know it's a short time frame, but do you think you're in the same boat? Like, if this was a 3 to 5 year project, that it would change the game a little bit?
Amy, I think I might answer for Amy from Basalt Education Foundation. I think we haven't had time to flesh out the financials.
Right.
I think we could pretty quickly, and making some plans and figuring out, I mean, I think what we've experienced is there are a lot of organizations that would probably come in and do some classes for us and help run the center so we could reduce our overhead. But we just haven't wanted to go out and blow this up if there's not support for doing it. So we kind of need that direction of go out and do some more research and come back quickly, so that we don't promise anything that we can't deliver.
I'd be in favor of blowing it up and seeing what happens. There's tons of different youth facilities throughout the valley. Maybe one of them's got money.
I think it's worth an ask.
That's where I would be at.
I mean, all we're doing is asking, and if they can do it quickly and we can get an answer, then we're more informed in deciding which way to go. I would rather at least look than not.
I agree.
I don't think we're at the point yet to kind of cut on the youth-oriented option, that kind of community benefit. I'd like to see that information as well before we look at kind of a plan B.
It'd be one thing if they had the occupancy permit and we're at the 180 days, but they don't even have the CO yet, so let's explore it, is my feel.
Bruce has something, and then I have another thing.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that we, as a construction matter, have been pumping the brakes on this building. Okay, this building could have been done by now, and I've all been doing it with the intent of not staffing it up, not loading it up with general conditions, doing a slow roll, all trying to be a good steward of the economics of this thing. And the longer this plays out, the more I would have to come back to the board if you end up going with residential housing down there. I would really say, you know, I'm going to have some free market units in there to make the economics work.
But on the same token, I don't think you have much of a choice.
Yeah.
Well, the ordinances wrote this way.
Yeah.
I got it. I guess
you're kind of bound to that.
It was my mistake for not making this the #1 building to build. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not trying to be mean, it's just,
Yeah.
this is the ordinance that is approved, and this is what you're stuck to, so.
I got it, but there's something, you know, it's like pushing a chain or trying to herd cats. When the market tells you, she just told you she doesn't have funds. Right?
That's one.
I understand, but you're talking about $1 million to $1.5 million to finish the space out. We have been talking about Stotts Mill for 18 years, okay, for 18 years. And we have been good stewards in terms of supporting the community, withholding our obligations. I understand there's language that was written a long time ago. Okay, markets have changed, financing mechanisms have changed. I'm sure you've been watching about what the Fed is doing, and all I'm sharing is, please, you want this community to be successful, you want this developer to be successful, and we need to exit out of this project. We need to secure permanent financing, and we need to move on and stabilize this asset so that it can go on for 10, 20, 30 years and provide good, affordable, stable housing that is built well above the market standards for our community. And so I want you to understand the economic forces that I'm dealing with, and they're real. And you may not think so, but I'm talking millions of dollars here that I've been pumping the brakes on.
I think we understand that, Richard. I think
Get it. Michelle, how much time do you need, do you think?
I mean, I think that I could probably pull something together within the month. I certainly won't have anything solid, and I won't have a signed deal, but at least I could have something that says, you know, we have people that will come to the table or not.
I would also just ask, have we explored like partnering with the CMC on some type of early childhood educational facility where their students are there teaching, or with the school district in that, you know, I know when I went to high school, we had a daycare in the high school that the high school kids helped staff. And I don't know if we've just, I know it's hard to have a daycare facility. I sat on this coalition, my kids are out of daycare now, thankfully, so it's not top of my mind, but I sit in these meetings and I know I understand how hard it is, but I just wonder too, the other thing that I've always brought up in the daycare facility conversations is that, you know, the hardest part of a daycare is the infant toddler care. And that is the hardest thing to get your kid into. And I don't know if anyone's ever explored a subsidized infant toddler care facility that is, you know, the basis is that's a loss leader on every single one of these daycares. And so they have only 6 spots there, but then their next class has 15 spots, and then the next class has 25 spots. And so is there a way to think about this in a different way than just a child care facility that has to fit the child care facility box? And is there a way to partner with Eagle County and to partner with Pickens County and create something that could be an example for other communities?
And, you know, maybe like, don't cornhole it just in a youth center, see what public benefit could come out of the space.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan that I'm reticent to let go of the daycare center until we've considered all of the options. And I think it's very easy to say, we're looking for this package of a daycare provider to come in and just serve us. But I think we need to be looking at it more holistically and like, how can we help? How can we subsidize? What other resources are out there? I have in front of me an RFP from Little Red Schoolhouse in Snowmass. They lease that space for $1. That is a very nice subsidy. And I know that that is not something that Bristol can do, but it's something as a community that we need to consider in order to provide what is necessary for this community. And I'll also say, since I'm on the bully pulpit right now, as I sit on the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition, housing is very near and dear to my heart. I don't think that this should be housing. I think this needs to be community facing. I feel like that would be a bait and switch to what was promised to our community. Whatever it looks like, I actually disagree that it should not be housing. And for the record, a category 2, 4 units would come in at $9,000+ a month, which is much nicer than the $2,400 that the 4,000 square foot space would be leased to a daycare center. So it is in your best interest to want housing. It is in our best interest to want something for our community.
Well said.
Yeah, well said.
And
Well said.
what have we reached out to the hospital, the Stedman, to SKICO, I mean, we have giant workforces here that need all the local banks. I mean, I don't know how we don't have a consortium of a public-private partnership to get this thing off the ground. There is, and it's not you, and everyone's busy, but I just feel like the same thing happened at SKICO Housing, where we left square footage on the table because that's what they had. But I don't understand how some of this stuff just cannot get done. I think we have to think in a larger, out-of-the-box thing on this than just, can we get one of our current providers to do something that's normal? Because we are in not normal times, and I just,
Reach out to everybody you know.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I called SKICO. I know they're looking into it. There's
This
just,
needs assessment that was done for the Little Red include the stakeholders of Aspen Ski Company, Manaus Foundation, Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council, Aspen Community Foundation, Kids First, City of Aspen, Child Care Licensing, Aspen School District, and Little Red. So they might be willing to share, you know, what went into this.
I know Stepping Stones is interested in the space. I read the article.
There's, something's gonna come out of this. I just don't think, I don't think obviously today we have to make a decision, but I think we encourage you to explore all the options, and I think we can all get a taste that we don't really want housing in this spot as of now.
Okay. Staff getting enough feedback here?
I think so. Yeah.
Anyone else? This is a work session. This is something we're going to keep working at here. I think everybody acknowledges the urgency, and time is of the essence to kind of figure this out. But in defense of my town council, I know you've been at it 18 years, Briston. This is the first time this council has seen this issue, so it's hard to kind of.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Kane. I think it's important that on this side of the fence, we've been working on it for a long time.
Yeah.
And all I'm trying to demonstrate is we've tried. The community, the daycare community has come back to us. And what I have heard repeatedly is this is a great concept, a little too small. What we really need is housing for our teachers.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm offering that. Maybe make this a priority where we go to all the teachers that need housing, right?
Yeah.
And that's the first box we check. So we put 4 apartments in. Yes, you're correct. The economics are more favorable, right? If we create housing here for us. But we're in. I understand the equation. I'm just trying to tell you what the market is saying.
Well, it's helpful to hear that. Yeah. But I have to say too, I mean, the language that's in the ordinance that addresses this space is essentially a community property right. It was a condition of the approval for the project. So it's not some vague, sort of loose. I mean, there were probably undoubtedly, I wasn't on the council then, but there were folks that voted yay or nay based on that understanding. So it can't be just waved off.
It was a huge discussion point.
Yeah, this guy was here.
I was on the council, and I know how big a discussion point this was, and I know that I knew that this is what we were going to come to.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I'm still sitting here, and I'm glad people are speaking up, because it's.
And you're correct. It was
very contentious at the time then too.
Was daycare was the hot topic at the time, and in my prior life, I used to work for a developer on the East Coast, and we built. I've said this before on public record here. We built. They're called Children's World. It's basically a real, true daycare facility, and what is missing in this entire valley is a coalition, and whether it's driven by jurisdictions and whether it's driven by the art-influenced school district or whatever the case may be, is somebody needs to step up to the plate and really build 1 or 2 proper daycare facilities that serve the demands of the community. In Stotts Mill, a little 4,000 square foot building, if you look at public record, is not the solution. And so I appreciate the attempt to try and solve it. But I've been saying this for 18 years, and you're correct. I knew we were going to come to this end game.
Well, you should have put Children's World then in Stotts Mill.
You had the idea.
You had the knowledge to do it.
The reality of it is I shouldn't have sold the parcel across the street to ski company, okay, which is perfect for a Children's World, right across the street from Stotts Mill.
Yeah, we all should have done a lot of things.
We don't own it anymore. Ski company owns it.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Exactly.
This is where we're headed.
Well,
I wanna-
the clock isn't expired, so we have some work to do.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And I want to throw out an idea to my fellow counselors. We have some affordable housing funds that we're trying to decide what to do with. Perhaps we could buy down some units for childcare workers in the Stotts Mill development in order to provide that as a subsidy. I don't know if subsidy is the right word, but a incentive, there we go,
Yeah.
to a childcare provider.
Good idea. Clever idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll, just so I understand, we'll wait for staff to, because I would like to clearly, as you know, try to advance the baton sooner than not. But what are we talking, James or Michelle? Are we talking another couple of weeks, 30 days? I just want to understand so I have a time frame on how to pump the brakes.
At least 30 days, maybe 45, yeah.
All right, thank you. We got some other items to deal with yet tonight, so thanks, folks. So, we all good? Okay. So that concludes the work session on Stotts Mill Daycare.
I know, I know.
We now turn to council actions. So our first order of business is item 7A, interview and a...
Totally out of...
Excuse me, I'm just...
Sorry.
Not a council meeting here. So our first order of business is interview and appointment for prospective Green Team members, Michelle and Sarah.
Hello, Council.
No green? What?
So I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce you to India Bouchard and Connor Hoffman. They are two seniors at Basalt High School, and they have attended a Green Team meeting. They're interested in finding out what more they could do with the Green Team. And the Green Team is interested in having them sit on as members of the board for at least the next 6 months while they are still in high school. And, sorry, I didn't realize I was up so soon after that robust discussion, so I'm a little off right now. But anyways, both Connor and India, they have actually kind of reinvigorated the school by creating the Basalt High School Environmental Club. They have a current focus on waste reduction in the schools, which I know is actually something that the Basalt Green Team is going to be focusing on in 2023. They've also worked on the installation of an electric vehicle charging station at the high school, the first of its kind at the high school, and the future installation potential. So they're making sure that there's additional fiber laid and things that need to be in place for future electric vehicles. And Connor has let me know that actually that is going to be a program that the actual high school students are working on. So the Green Team has voted unanimously to bring these two individuals onto the Basalt Green Team. So we're here in front of you to discuss council's making a motion to accept this and to get to know the opportunity to interview India and Connor, get to know them a little bit. And find out if you feel that that would be a good decision to make. Currently, the Green Team has 4 voting members. We can have up to 7. So we think that this would be a great opportunity to get a new perspective on our community's projects, and as well as to create this relationship that we've been trying to foster between the high school and the town and the Green Team on these kind of projects. So with that, I will turn it over to council, and you can take it away.
Great. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for your interest and commitment to the environment. It's really inspiring to see our next generation coming up and, tackling these tough issues. So why don't you, in no particular order, just tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you'd like to accomplish on this board.
I'm Connor Hoffman. As she said, I'm a senior. We've done a lot with the environmental club, but we'd love to branch out a little bit more. It's really cool to do what we can in the schools, but we know that as students, we're just as much a part of this community as anybody else. We'd love to bring a greater voice to the youth, kind of what we can do. We've had experience with some of this stuff. I don't know if that helps the town, but any voice, anything that we can contribute, we'd like to.
Great. India?
I'm India Bouchard, also senior. I think that community involvement is one of our main goals in this coming year. We really want to help, from the high school, getting connected with the community and just expanding our, what we can do to help. Sorry.
Excellent. Council?
Looking at your guys' resumes, it's impressive, and I thank you for having interest in it. And if you want to do longer than 6 months, I think everybody keep driving.
6 years?
How many people are in the club?
It's pretty small right now.
Yeah.
It's like 2 or 3.
3 official members. We get a couple of people that float in. And as seniors, we'll be leaving next year.
Sure.
So we really like to try to push our involvement in the school as well, not just
Right.
in the community. We got some funding from the thrift store and Alpine Bank, so hopefully make some stickers and some shirts and stuff.
Cool.
And then we
So
can-
you know, the plan is then to keep the program going for years after you've gone.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
that's the hope.
We have a pretty committed teacher relationship with Mr. Vozick, Eric Vozick.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then Miss Ingram as well. So they'll definitely keep the club going after we're gone.
And what are you guys doing to reduce the waste in schools?
We've had a teamwork going with the cafeteria staff, and we're working on getting biodegradable utensils and plates and cups for the cafeteria, and talking with the waste staff to make sure that trash is being sorted from compost, recycling, and trash. And we're just trying to move to as compostable as we can be. And
We also kind of brought the recycling program back and the composting program. So we talked with Evergreen, brought them to the school, found the funding for that. And then we talked with the staff, figured out, because we haven't had recycling for quite a while. But we had all the bins, we had all the resources, there was still the big bin outside. So we were able to kind of reinstate that and bring that all back in all the classrooms.
That's great. Good job.
Great. Ryan?
I mean, this is awesome. I think this is exactly what the community needs. I think you guys should encourage some more of your friends. We have BPAC, we have, I forget all of it. Yeah, Parks and Open Space. I commend you guys for doing this, and your goals are awesome. And so, Mayor, I move the town council appoint India Bouchard and Connor Hoffman, each to a 6-month term on the green team, hopefully to extend it, but it ends on June 24th, 2026. No, it's 2023. We were trying to get you committed for 3 years.
Slight typo, a small typo.
Slip it in there.
So do we have a
Second.
motion and a second? Okay. Motion and a second, so we can do this voice vote. So all those in favor of the appointment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, you guys just signed up, so.
Thank you, guys. So awesome.
Great. Okay, next item is interview and appointment for a prospective BPAC member and reappointment of 2 current members. So Michelle and Sarah again.
Yeah, it's me again.
You ready this time?
So, yeah, a little bit more so, thank you. I really was really into that last conversation, so. So I have here at the table today Jack Trembath. Thank you. I always want to put an R on your name, thank you. Jack works with TACAW. Jack has attended a few meetings, actually, of the Basalt Public Arts Commission, starting late last year. And Jack is interested in becoming appointed as a member of TACAW. We currently do have 4 members, 2 which are actually, would be asking you to make a separate motion to reappoint. Jack currently, well, as I said, he works at TACAW. He is a theater operations coordinator. He also has some work as an actor as well as in lighting design. So he's very familiar with performing arts and the behind the scenes kind of stuff. I let Jack explain why he'd be interested in joining on BPAC more thoroughly. But I will tell you that BPAC members have voted unanimously to provide a recommendation to town council to appoint Jack to the commission. We can, as I mentioned, we can have up to, or maybe I hadn't, up to 9 members on BPAC as well as 1 alternate. Generally, we do have somebody from TACAW that is on the board. Formerly, Anna Lohr had served as TACAW's representative, and she had to step down. So we are actually missing that presence from TACAW right now, which is another reason we'd love to have Jack on the board, not just because he's a wonderful human being. So I will step away and let you go ahead and speak with Jack.
Welcome, and thanks for your interest in BPAC. Do you want to just say a few words about your interest and
Sure. Yeah. I see BPAC as an excellent opportunity, not only to be one of the bridges between TACAW and the town, but also to bring my perspective as a performing artist and somebody in that area of the arts to BPAC. Yeah.
Great. Excellent. Council?
What's the favorite role you've ever played?
That's a good question. I really enjoyed Macduff in Macbeth. Yeah, that was an excellent.
Somehow I had a feeling you were going to say something in Shakespeare.
I do enjoy Shakespeare. I do. Yeah.
So is Burnham Woods on the march?
Yeah. Hopefully not. Hopefully not here. We don't need any fire or anything like that.
Great. So, well, thanks. You guys are doing great stuff at the call. We really enjoy it. So, best to Ryan.
I've ever seen the consensual improv.
I also do improv, yes.
As a member of that.
Oh, right.
Super
Wow.
funny.
That's good.
Second City, kind of.
Alec, who works for us.
Yes.
Second City.
Kind of part of the family already.
That's great.
I hear a lot about what goes on here.
Oh, geez, so we have to appoint him, okay. Mayor, I move the town council appoint Jack Trembath to the Basalt Public Art Commission for a 3-year term ending January 24th, 2026. Jeff, can I make the... And reappoint, or does it need to be a separate motion?
You can do it all by one.
Thank you.
And reappoint Liz Bell and Karen Andre to the Basalt Public Arts Commission for an additional 3-year term ending January 24th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Out, damn spot. Next up, public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 1, series of 2023, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, granting minor subdivision and slope review approvals to subdivide the property at 563 East Cypress Drive into 3 lots and improve the access driveway. Basalt, James? And you guys can come up. Julie, you can have a prime seat up here. They're the same price as the ones in the back.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
So I have to declare my conflict. My first office was on the 2nd floor above Cheap Shots in Aspen, and
That's
a
true.
long time ago. Go ahead, James.
Thank you. This is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance that would approve of a minor subdivision and slope review submitted by HGL LLC. And it's to subdivide the property at 563 East Cypress Drive into 3 lots and improve the access drive. The subject property is located right here on the vicinity map. This is Cypress Drive as it comes into Cedar Drive going up the hill. The subject property is a 3.4 acre property, so a large property on the south side of Cypress Drive. Once again, it's near the intersection of Cypress Drive and Cedar. And it contains 3 single-family houses on the lot currently. There's 2 smaller houses that are about 1,800 square foot and a larger house that's about 3,600 square foot. The property is zoned R2, and the applicant is proposing to subdivide it into 3 separate lots. 1 for each of the single-family houses, and you can see here they've got the lot lines proposed. This is a lot line to separate off the larger house, and then there's a lot line proposed to separate off the 2 smaller single-family houses. The proposed lots are between 35,000 and 67,000 square feet. And the applicant is proposing to make some improvements to the driveway as well. The driveway currently kind of dives off of Cypress Drive at an angle. The applicant is proposing to soften the grade at the top of the access and then also square it off to Cypress Drive to make it a better turning radius. The review process for a minor subdivision that doesn't include a town property and that does not increase the number of residential dwelling units requires a review by the Council of an Ordinance, but does not include a Planning and Zoning Commission review. So in reviewing the application, Staff has come up with some discussion items that are in your packet and on the screen. The first one being the compliance with the R2 zoning. As I noted, the proposed lots are between 35,000 and 67,000, and they're well above the minimum lot size for the R2 zone district. And the lots are proposed to meet the floor area and setbacks of the R2 zoning. Currently, it's non-conforming property with regards to the density that's on it, in that there's 3 units and the property would only be permitted the 1 unit. And they're proposing to create 3 conforming lots out of the property since there are 3 existing units. Other topics include the inclusionary housing, affordable housing mitigation. The town code has an exemption in it that for subdivisions that create 3 or less lots and that have houses that are less than 3,000 square feet. Staff has included a condition in the draft ordinance that the 3 lots be limited to 3,000 square feet of gross floor area to satisfy this requirement for the affordable housing exemption, with the caveat that the existing 3,600 square foot house would be able to remain, and if it was ever redeveloped, a new house on the site would be limited to the 3,000 gross square feet. Other topics of discussion that we have in the staff memo include the driveway access as well as a fire turnaround. As was mentioned, the applicant is proposing to improve the grade of the access as well as to square it off to Sopris Drive. And the fire district has required that there be a fire truck turnaround provided, and it's proposed as part of the access. There's a condition in the draft ordinance that would reiterate that this is a requirement and that the fire district would need to approve of the geometry of the fire truck turnaround before finalizing the plat. Other topics that are included in the staff memo include the impact fees. The applicants would be exempt from the parkland and school land dedication requirements of the subdivision, as they're not proposing to increase the density on the site. But they're required to pay other applicable building permit and development impact fees if they were ever to expand these houses or build new. And that's included in your draft conditions. Other topics include the easements on the site. There is a requirement to provide easements for the utilities and access across the other lots to get to the main house because they're subdividing the lots. They could be in different ownership, so they need to provide those easements. And so there's a condition that those easements on the easement exhibit would be transferred to a plat before recording. In addition, we've got portions of Sopris Drive and Cedar Drive that go through the corners of the property. There's a condition that those be cleaned up if they're out of the easements in any location. There are currently some easements in place, but where they might pop out of the easement, there's a condition that that be cleaned up. Generally, staff has reviewed the proposal and believe it meets the subdivision criteria as well as the slope review criteria. So this evening, staff would suggest hearing from the applicants, taking public comments because it is a public hearing, and providing council discussion. And we do have Julie Wyckoff and Chris Wyckoff here this evening, as well as Romeo, who is the engineer for the project.
Okay, good evening, guys. So, be happy to hear any comments you'd like to make or explanation of what you're up to.
I think that James has explained
Yeah,
very well what we'd like to do.
great. Questions from council? Pretty quiet.
Fire away.
Okay, well, this is a public hearing, so we'll open it up to see if there's anybody in the public who would like to comment on the proposed subdivision. Is there anyone calling in? Doesn't look to be anybody on the list. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ayers. I live nearby. I'm in favor of it. But as James was reading that, I am curious to know the Cedar Road and Sopris. And you mentioned clean that up as your lot line goes over that in the left, as you look at that red line on the left. What does that mean, clean it up? In the regard that's it's on a road.
It means
Thank
that
you.
there are
Thank
some
you for asking
easements that are in place for those, but in certain cases, Cypress Drive kind of jets out of the easement a bit.
So if there's utilities there, does the town of Basalt ask them to work on those utilities, or how does that would work?
No, if there's utilities under Cypress Drive in the access, that's town utility.
You don't, like a phone pole or something like that, moving it?
So the easement grants the town the right to maintain the utilities, even though they're located on their property.
So it's not their responsibility. Why wouldn't you just deed that over now?
Well, this is the fanciest way. The wording in here is the nicest condemnation I've ever heard. I was like, whoa, we're going to take your property. But so, back to the clean it up.
I mean, I don't know if that's a point, but I just...
I think it's a good point.
Sure, thanks.
Who answers this?
Well, you're the ones who's at, if you agree to it, that's where it goes.
Well, but no, it's a very vague thing for them to clean it up. I walk by it all the time, like trim their trees or like.
No,
Not like clean up the easement.
The legal.
Oh, clean up their easement.
Yeah, not to
So-
literally trim trees.
Maybe let's talk to the lawyer on this.
It can be created in several ways. It can be dedicated in fee, they can, and there are other times easements, and those easements can be express or implied. Here, we have an implied easement for the right-of-way for the road based on the existence of the road over that period of time. The cleanup is to grant an express easement or some other arrangement within a plat to dedicate those areas to formally put it in an express easement.
I thought you were talking about literally cleaning up the road. That's what. No, that makes sense.
No.
Make that red line instead of square.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Off at the road. But
Well,
That doesn't really have that much of an effect for us. The easement provides for the same, ability to maintain that pavement, maintain any water line that might be in there as it would be if it was dedicated right of way, so.
So before we vote on this, I just want to sort of say a couple things. This is kind of a remarkable, it's doesn't look like a lot, but this is a sort of a fulfillment of kind of what we try to accomplish with our land use regulations. This is an opportunity for local family to stay here with kids and the next generation. So Chris, this is just great. I mean, this is fantastic to get your family to be able to stay here. I mean, the stories of land being sold and for way too much money and locals being displaced is all too familiar. So this is really refreshing to see that we got local families that are able to stay here. So very cool. And, it was Art and Pauline up there for a long time. And now there's another local family kind of stepping in. So this is a nice kind of resolution.
I'll second Bill's comments, and I'll also say that I look at her driveway and I understand why she wants to do this. It's kind of a semi-treacherous entrance, so.
Yeah.
So are we good on public hearing?
Yeah,
we are.
Yes. Mayor, I move the town council approve ordinance number 1, series of 2023 on first reading, continue and set public hearing for February 14th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. We have to call the roll on this one as it's an ordinance.
Okay.
You ready, Mayor? All right, let's begin with David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Pam, who got the second on that one?
That was, hang on a second. Did I write it down?
forgot?
No. I
Did you
thought
second it, Pam?
Because Ryan made,
I'll take it.
motion.
Thank you.
right, wasn't it Glenn and Ryan?
She can forever be in my debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Is
curious.
it tied?
Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't matter.
That was mean.
Ryan's just harassing it.
It's mean.
All right, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you all. That was so.
Pretty much painless, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Good job, Romeo.
I'm coming.
Yeah, you bet. I'll give you a call.
So that concludes our formal business tonight. Thank you, guys. I think it was a good evening.
She has one more
She had one
comment.
more thing to say.
Julie,
Oh, sorry.
we want your
I
comment.
have one more thing to say. I kind of have a little PTSD about doing anything with the councils and whatever. And James and his associates have been so helpful to me.
Nice.
And
We got the best staff around.
beyond anything. So it's been a
Nice.
real pleasure.
Great. Happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind words.
Ryan, what agenda was the budget in? Do you remember?
The budget?
Yeah.
December, December 13th.
Hey, James, are they required to keep that building that's on there? That old building?
They're proposing